Marvel, it starts when it links with a great clock of the Super God Academy. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 776, Hang out with the protagonists first. It is precisely because of the excessive consumption of energy when traveling through space quickly that I need 2 years to travel this far again after this one. Xianxia gave a very natural answer to Vegeta's question. It takes 2 years to rest. Who in the world would use up all their energy just to travel through the universe? If they suddenly encounter an enemy, wouldn't they be completely unable to fight back? Vegeta himself is a villain, so he analyzed the loopholes in Xianxia's actions from the perspective of a villain. Although I don't think I'm invincible, I'm afraid not everyone has the ability to hurt me. Xianxia was also a little angry. He said that he came here unintentionally, but Vegeta was still keeping a tight lid on everything. Did he really think that he was afraid of him? You know, although this is the Dragon Ball world, Vegeta can't even transform into the first generation Super Saiyan now. When Xianxia is at full strength, who can be his opponent unless he attracts those real gods? Xianxia chose to keep a low profile now, just because of his identity as a time traveler. He was afraid of causing unnecessary trouble. He was afraid of being discovered by the gods of destruction, but he was not really afraid of them. What do you mean by that? Do you think I can't beat you? Vegeta looked into Xianxia's eyes, and the contempt in his eyes made him very uncomfortable. Do you think you can beat me? Xianxia did not answer, but asked directly. Then why don't you just try it? Vegeta was really angry. A ball of white air burst out of his body in an instant, and his entire combat power also rose rapidly. Vegeta, Piccolo's angry voice came from the side. Vegeta now is not necessarily Piccolo's opponent, so Piccolo will not be afraid of him. Piccolo was really left behind in the android chapter. After absorbing the gods, his combat power reached its peak and crushed everyone for a short time. Then he could no longer catch up with Saiyans like Son Goku and Vegeta. Humph, Vegeta snorted coldly, but he still endured it after all. He stayed on Earth to wait for Sun Wukong to come back. He wanted to know what the Super Saiyan was like. So, it was unnecessary to quarrel with Piccolo and the others over such trivial matters. Sir, there seems to be a defect in your genes. Is it intentional or is it due to some accident? Xianxia looked at Piccolo and suddenly asked. What do you mean by that? Piccolo's face turned ugly when he heard Xianxia suddenly say that. Don't get me wrong, I have no ill intentions, Xianxia explained. I said that only because of my ability, or the scientific technology I have mastered, which allows me to observe and judge the genes of others. According to my judgment, although your genes have been fused with the genes of another person, they are still not complete. I'm just curious, is this your own behavior or because of some accident when you were a child? Xianxia's words made Piccolo frown slightly, but the grudge in his heart was much less. The people present knew Piccolo's background. They all knew that Piccolo's body was actually split from the gods, so the defects mentioned by Xianxia were naturally no problem. This is my own business, you don't need to mind it. Piccolo's temper improved a lot after he merged with another Namekian on Namek. Otherwise, he would have been furious just because of what Xianxia said. Well, since it's your private matter, I won't ask, Xianxia said. I came from a far distance this time, and I can't leave by myself in the next 2 years, so I want to stay here temporarily. I wonder if anyone among you is willing to host me, Xianxia asked. In the case of not knowing whether he will cause some unnecessary trouble, the best way is definitely to mix with the protagonists. Although being with the protagonists may attract attention and attract people's attention. But being with the protagonists will reduce the probability of accidents. Even if the god of destruction suddenly descends one day, others will die, but the protagonists will probably live well. Because, they are the protagonists. In the words of his father Li Qingyun, they are all sons of destiny and are protected by the power of the world. Of course, there are also cases where the entire protagonist group is dead, but Xianxia has not encountered such a world yet. If you have nowhere to go, you can go to my house first, Bulma spoke. This woman was able to fly in the air with the help of others. Her greatest ability, besides being beautiful, was that she was rich. As the richest woman in the Dragon Ball world, her house was big enough. Not to mention just one person, even the entire protagonist group could live in it. In that case, thank you for taking me in, Xianxia smiled and nodded. It's rare for everyone to get together. Why don't you all go to my house? I'll hold a banquet and celebrate with everyone." Bulma looked at the others and said. Of course, the real purpose was not to celebrate anything, but it was not possible to determine whether Xianxia was a bad person for the time being. If everyone was still together, safety would be more guaranteed. Okay, everyone either really wanted to join in the fun or understood Bulma's intentions, so they all agreed. So Xianxia followed them and went directly to Bulma's house in the West capital. As the home of the world's richest man, this huge building and huge manor were really very impressive. After Xianxia arrived, Bulma immediately took Xianxia to find a room and arranged all the living conditions for Xianxia. Then, everyone returned to the manor and started the party. All kinds of fine wine and food were all present in just a few minutes, and Xianxia went in and out, and some of them weren't already edible. However, when Xianxia came out, what everyone cared about most was not what delicious food to eat, but the curiosity that Xianxia's wings suddenly disappeared. Facing the curiosity of everyone, Xianxia naturally explained to them patiently, telling them that his wings can be controlled at any time, summoned when needed, and hidden when not needed. After listening, everyone was shocked. In the subsequent banquet, Xianxia also got along well with these people. Everyone talked and chatted very speculatively. During the whole process, only 3 people were very unhappy. The first one was Vegeta, because he felt that his status as a strong man was challenged. The second one was Piccolo, who was always on guard, fearing that Xianxia was a person with ulterior motives. As for the third one, it was Yamcha, and the reason he was unhappy was that another man moved into Bulma's house. Chapter 777 Trunks arrives. Tensha stayed at Bulma's house, which was nothing to Bulma. After all, she was generous. Tensha didn't think much of it either, because Tensha's purpose was just to have more contact with the protagonists, nothing more. However, a man suddenly moved into the house, and the other 2 men who originally lived here felt very uncomfortable. Vegeta always felt that he didn't like Tensha, because the aura he felt the first time that day was indeed very strong. Although Tensha controlled the aura later, the aura he exuded on weekdays was still very strong. Vegeta felt that there was another strong man in front of him, and he was suppressed again. Yamcha was purely worried, afraid that his girlfriend would be taken away by someone else. Vegeta, who moved in earlier, was fine. That guy was cold, and he was originally a big villain. Yamcha didn't think Bulma would have anything to do with him. But Tensha was different. Tensha's face was very handsome, and he was warm and good at getting along with people. As soon as he moved in, he became very familiar with Bulma. Especially when Bulma was researching some advanced technology, Xianxia could give advice immediately after just one look. Bulma is different from other Z fighters. Bulma is a technical person. She is good at invention and creation. In the past, all Z fighters were about the same in this regard. Bulma has always relied on her own research, so she has never thought about it. But now there is suddenly such a smart person, and this person seems to have very strong power. Seeing the 2 people getting more and more familiar, how can Yamcha not worry? However, it is useless for him to worry, because this is Bulma's home after all, and everything here is decided by Bulma herself. Moreover, Xianxia did not do anything out of line, and everything was very law-abiding. Even Xianxia took the initiative to find him, Yamcha, to know how they control their power so that outsiders cannot perceive it. After all, even if Xianxia controls his power as much as possible, he still releases very powerful energy. If this situation were put on the battlefield, it would be like turning on the hotspot all the time, allowing people all over the world to connect to it. Therefore, Xianxia wanted to know how to control it specifically. As long as he could control the energy, he could hide like them when facing the warriors in the Dragon Ball world. Yamcha was reluctant to teach at first, but Xianxia was too good at talking. Every word he said could hit Yamcha's heart, which made Yamcha very happy. So, he obediently told him all the methods. Xianxia tried it according to this method. Although the effect was not very good at the beginning, after a period of practice, it was still able to reduce it significantly. At least, it would not show such a high value as at the beginning. However, before Xianxia could fully master this skill, a new crisis appeared. A powerful energy suddenly appeared in the space outside the Earth. The Z warriors who were originally scattered in various areas all sensed this breath at this time. Moreover, they all knew that this breath was not only powerful, but also familiar to them, because it was the breath of Frieza. So, All the Z warriors immediately headed to the direction of the breath they sensed. Even the guest, Xianxia, was asked by Bulma to follow. Xianxia also knew what was going to happen next. And he also wanted to see how big the difference was between him and the so-called king of the universe. In other words, he wanted to see how big the difference was between the real strong people in this world and himself, a strong person who relied on technology. A group of people quickly arrived at the exact location, but before they had time to wait for Frieza to arrive, they were attracted by a boy who suddenly appeared. "Hello," the boy greeted, and everyone present, except Xianxia, was very surprised. After all, none of them knew this boy. "Hello," Xianxia was the first to greet, but his subconscious response confused the boy. "Who are you?" The boy was Trunks, who traveled from the future. Before he traveled, he naturally knew all the information about the Z warriors, which means he should know everyone here. But the first person he spoke to was someone he didn't know at all. "Li Qianxia," Qianxia replied. At the same time, a subtle voice entered Trunks' mind. "Once you travel through time and space, the two worlds will be completely separated. The world you are in is no longer the same world as here, but a parallel universe. Everything that happens here from now on will be completely different from the world you originally lived in." This was Qianxia's answer to Trunks, and this answer shocked Trunks. He didn't expect that he had just traveled through time and space, and his identity was recognized. Moreover, the content that the other party said was obviously much more detailed than what he knew. It seemed that the other party had an incomparable understanding of the concept of the multiverse and the ability of time and space travel. "Don't be surprised, I am also a traveler who has just traveled through time and space, but I came to this world purely by accident, which is different from you coming here on purpose," Qianxia continued to explain. "Our identities cannot be told to others casually. Although no matter what we do in the future, it will change the future of this world and has nothing to do with what you know. But I believe you still hope not to completely mess up the timeline," Qianxia said, and Trunks nodded silently after listening. Once the ability of time travel is revealed, many things will definitely be affected. If the original people in this timeline start to study the time machine, it may directly subvert all order. This kind of thing is really unnecessary unless it is necessary. However, regarding the theory of parallel time and space, he must find Qianxia to learn more. Whether these two universes can communicate at any time in the future, and whether he can appear here many times, all of these may be answered by Qianxia. Qianxia looked at Trunks and knew what he was thinking, but Qianxia would not publicize such things casually, because he was afraid of attracting the god of destruction. Chapter 778 Frieza. My appearance seems to have changed the timeline. Trunks turned around and looked at the two spaceships that were slowly descending from the sky. "Well, it's okay. This kind of unconscious change won't be a big problem," Qianxia nodded and comforted Trunks. According to the database records of the Big Clock, Trunks was actually forced to take action after Frieza and his father appeared. Because he had already taken action, the Z warriors knew about it, and finally went directly with him to wait for Son Goku's arrival. But now, Frieza has not arrived yet, but Trunks has appeared first. This is probably because of Qianxia's influence. The appearance of a person, and the appearance of a powerful person, will definitely have an impact on many things. Qianxia has traveled through many dimensional universes and has long been accustomed to such things, so he doesn't think there's anything wrong. As for those who persuaded Trunks, the main reason is that he still doesn't want him to tell the secret that he has a time-space shuttle machine. At least, the time machine cannot be revealed to Bulma. Otherwise, with Bulma's ability and her excessive curiosity, she might want to study the time machine herself. "They're coming." Piccolo raised his head and looked at the sky. "Quick, everyone control your breath and hide," Vegeta urged, and then everyone immediately controlled their breath to reduce their power as much as possible. However, they soon discovered a problem, that is, one of them did not control the energy breath up to standard. This person was naturally Tensha. "Don't look at me like that, I just started learning, and now I can control half of it, which is already very good." Tensha faced the eyes of everyone and scratched his head in embarrassment. "What should we do now? With Tensha here, Frieza and the others will immediately determine our location." Gohan did not mean to blame Tensha, but he also understood that they might not be able to escape this time. "How about this? Let me go. Since it's something I caused myself, I'll solve it myself." Trunks was about to say that he was going to go up, but he didn't expect Tensha to stand up first. "The opponent is the Universe Emperor Frieza. Do you really think you have the ability to fight him?" Vegeta's face was full of disdain and contempt. Vegeta, felt that he had no ability to fight Frieza at all. This guy in front of him actually wanted to deal with Frieza. Isn't this just a foolish dream? Can you tell if you can try it? Tensha said, and then he directly opened a pair of white wings and flew towards the place where Frieza's spaceship landed. The action of opening his wings made Trunks even more surprised after seeing it. He didn't expect that Tensha was not an ordinary human, but an angel. But Trunks followed him in the end. Trunks didn't know how strong Tensha was, but he knew very well that the strength of Frieza and his son was such that ordinary people could not be their opponents unless they were Super Saiyans. So, Trunks followed them to take precautions. Seeing that two people passed by at once, although the others were afraid in their hearts, they didn't care so much at this moment, and followed quietly behind, wanting to find out what was going on. At this moment, a huge spaceship landed on an open space, and a large number of warriors came out of the spaceship. These warriors were all soldiers of Frieza's army. And they were the warriors they used to rule many planets in the universe. Tensha appeared in front of Frieza and his son, and coughed twice as a greeting. Frieza, who had been very proud to boast to his father that his current strength was enough to crush everyone on Earth, also raised his head at this time. "Who are you?" Frieza asked. "Oh, this person's combat power is 50,000. Frieza's father also looked up at Tensha, and then immediately read Tensha's combat power through the device on his eyes. 50,000 combat power. The soldiers of Frieza's army around were all surprised when they heard this number. On a small Earth, there are such powerful warriors. Doesn't this mean that they have reached the same level as the elites of the Jinai force? Really? My current combat power is 50,000. Tensha actually didn't know how the combat power in the Dragon Ball world was specifically measured. Ordinary people are 5 points, or ordinary people with guns are 5 points. But now, through what Frieza's father said, his combat power is 50,000, and Scientia can immediately get the most accurate data. 50,000? Do you think you can be proud of a combat power of 50,000? Frieza said disdainfully. If a combat power of 50,000 is not worth being proud of, then I wonder if a combat power of 500 million is worth being proud of. As Scientia spoke, the energy on his body began to rise continuously. Scientia's current combat power of 50,000 was formed after he shut down all his most powerful dark energy data and relied solely on the energy emitted by his physical body, and it was also reduced by more than half. Now, he released his intentionally controlled aura and reconnected the dark energy, and the energy he could mobilize naturally began to leapfrog. In fact, if Scientia really wanted to use his full strength, with his current divine body, plus the 6 infinite gems in the big clock, his own Airseer genes, celestial genes, magic energy, etc., the energy he could mobilize at one time might have been able to catch up with the final standard of Dragon Ball Z, that is the level of Kid Buu and Super Saiyan 3 Son Goku, about 900 billion. Why does Scientia dare to speculate that he can reach that level? Naturally, if he releases his full strength, although he cannot destroy the entire universe with one blow, he can still destroy a universe in a short period of time. This is a specific manifestation of cosmic level strength. However, even with such strength, Scientia still does not think that he is invincible. The reason for such an idea is also very simple, because in the Dragon Ball world, there are more powerful existences such as King Kai, angels, and great priests above the universe. Moreover, Scientia's power is also assisted by various attacks. The energy provided by the big clock is the energy obtained from the universe itself when he fights. In a sense, Scientia cannot surpass the universe itself. This is his limit. Therefore, no matter how strong he is, he cannot compare with the god of destruction who can directly destroy the universe itself. Chapter 779, The Debut of the God of Technology. As a technological god, Scientia actually couldn't understand the powerful combat power structure of the Dragon Ball world. Because Scientia's strength was largely due to the power of the outside world. However, these people in the Dragon Ball world were able to cultivate their strength to the god level purely by relying on their own mortal bodies. Can human genes really contain such powerful energy? Can we finally have god level power by breaking through the limits again and again? Scientia always had such an idea in his mind, but there was no accurate answer to this idea so far. 500 million? How is this possible? Frieza listened to Scientia's words and felt that the other party was dreaming. But then, the situation shown by the other party shocked him. Scientia's power was constantly increasing, And even the detection device on Frieza's head exploded directly at this moment. The speed of the increase was so fast that the algorithms of these detection devices could not keep up at all. But there was an exception. That was the one worn by Frieza's father. Because that one was deliberately left by Xianxia. Xianxia asked the big clock to directly strengthen its algorithm, so that its computing power was greatly improved, and it could withstand the speed of Xianxia's energy increase. Even the amount displayed was expanded. No, impossible, this is absolutely impossible. Frieza's father was stunned at this time. Looking at the data in front of him, he seemed to see the devil. How could there be someone in this world who really has 500 million combat power? Frieza's father's words were like a thunderbolt, directly hitting Frieza's heart. At this moment, even Trunks and Vegeta who followed closely behind were equally unbelievable 500 million combat power. This is nothing to Trunks, because after practicing to a certain level, Super Saiyans are capable of breaking through this limit. Although Trunks does not have this combat power, the two androids he met can have it. Because Trunks now has more than 200 million, but the two of them combined are definitely not the opponent of the android. However, knowing that someone can have this combat power is one thing, and seeing Li Qianxia display such strength is another. Big clock? How much of my power is this? Qianxia asked. He actually wanted to compare his current strength with the combat power data of this world. Less than 1%, the big clock replied. Very good, about the same as I predicted. Qianxia smiled, then raised his right hand and waved it casually. In an instant, a white light flew out of his hand, and then it quickly shuttled around the soldiers of Frieza's army, accurately hitting each of them in a short period of time and completely harvesting their lives. This scene shocked Vegeta and others in the distance. But Trunks was very surprised by this. Because Trunks saw clearly what was in the white light, it was a silver blade. Attacking by controlling objects is completely different from the Z fighters. Most people in the Dragon Ball world rely on their own energy to fight. No one has ever used a fighting method like Qianxia. Now, there are only two of you left. Qianxia looked down at Frieza and his son. Run! Frieza's father turned around and was about to flee. But the next moment, the white light had already penetrated his chest. Moreover, after piercing his body, the white light did not mean to stop, but continued to fly. And finally cut his entire body into pieces, and finally fell down. You come too. Tensha looked at Frieza, and Frieza at this time, suddenly shot out a golden energy ball and smashed it towards the ground. Yes, not to Tensha, but to the ground. He wanted to repeat the scene on Namek and destroy the Earth directly. Big clock, Tensha whispered, and then the next moment, Tensha and Frieza were transferred to space outside the Earth. The energy ball shot by Frieza fell into the void and was absorbed by an invisible force. Tensha was standing in front of Frieza at this time, with a long sword in his hand. Let me replicate your original death for you, Qianxia said, and then he rushed forward and chopped Frieza's body in half with a single blow. Then he continued to swing his sword, cutting Frieza's entire body into pieces, and finally added a light wave. Well, this light wave is not quite right, because this light wave itself is not released by Qianxia, but is converted from the surrounding dark energy. But at least, it looks very similar, Qianxia said, and then there was another flash, returning to Earth from space. The remains of Frieza's father were gone at this time. Trunks had experienced too many cruel things in another parallel universe, so he was extremely cautious and would never give the other party any chance to survive. Judging from this point alone, Qianxia felt that Trunks was much better than other Z fighters in the Dragon Ball world. Big clock, have you got the genes you need to collect? Qianxia asked. Frieza's genes have been backed up. Do you want to analyze them immediately? After answering, the big clock asked again. Well, let's start. I also want to see what the genes in the Dragon Ball world are like, Qianxia said, but on the surface he was still calm. He came to the front of the spaceship and raised his hand to put it directly into the dark matter plane space. Where did you put it? Trunks asked curiously. I just put it in a special storage container on my body, Qianxia answered. Similar to a storage capsule, Trunks took out a box from his pocket and casually took out a bottle similar to a capsule. Your material conditions don't seem to be very sufficient. Qianxia looked at the capsules of Trunks, and the Eye of Insight instantly looked at everything stored in them. The environment in the future world is relatively harsh. My conditions are actually very good. Trunks was also helpless. This matter was not something he could decide, because he had no way to defeat the two androids and it was impossible to restore peace to the future. Take this with you, it may help you at a critical moment. Xianxia threw a ring to Trunks while speaking. Trunks caught it, but looking at the ring, he was a little confused. Chapter 780, Return of Sun Wukong. If one day, when the most dangerous moment comes, open this ring. The things inside may bring you a ray of hope, Xianxia explained, but this made Trunks very confused. It's just a ring. What is hidden inside it that can have such a powerful power? Thank you. Trunks did not delay, because the environment he was in was indeed very bad. At this time, Vegeta and the others had come. These people all looked at Xianxia with a confused look on their faces. They were even more curious about Xianxia's identity and strength. Son Goku is coming back soon. Why don't we go to the place where he landed and wait for him first? Xianxia said what Trunks said in the comics. Really? My dad is coming back. Son Gohan was the first to stand up. This little Saiyan was unable to save his father when he was on Namek. Now, after a year, he finally waited for his father to come back. Naturally, he was very excited. Yes, if you are anxious, why don't I take him over directly? Xianxia looked at Son Gohan and asked. Can you bring him here? Son Gohan looked at Tensha suspiciously. Yes, Tensha said, and then he flew into the air. When he reached a height of several hundred meters, Tensha suddenly stretched out the index and middle fingers of his right hand and drew a circle in the air. As he drew the circle, a golden halo appeared in the space, and on the other side of the halo was the starry sky. Then, a small spaceship flew out from the halo and crashed straight into Tensha. Faced with such a high-speed device, Tensha stretched out both hands at the same time, but caught it steadily in an instant. This scene made North Kai Wang, who was watching on King Kai's planet at the moment, full of confusion. Where did this man come from? How could he have such a magical and powerful power? North Kai Wang was a god. Although in terms of status, he was almost the lowest level among the gods of the universe, there were also gods below him. North Kai Wang had lived for a long time and had seen a lot of things. However, he had never seen anyone with such magical powers as Xianxia. Even the god of destruction did not have such powers. Earth. Xianxia fell from mid-air, and the spaceship was gently placed on the ground by him. Inside the spaceship, Sun Wukong walked out with a bewildered look on his face. I was clearly still flying in the universe. How could I be back on Earth all of a sudden? Sun Wukong had strong combat power and a high combat talent, but his thoughts were also really simple. Dad, Sun Gohan shouted, and then rushed over. Sun Wukong looked at his son's enthusiastic actions, and he didn't care about so much at once, and quickly opened his arms to welcome his son. Sun Gohan jumped into his arms. After being separated for such a long time, the father and son were finally able to reunite. Others also came forward at this time, but the two sides asked about each other's well-being, which delayed the time for more than 10 minutes. Trunks saw that the time was almost up, so he took the initiative to come forward. Mr. Sun Wukong, can you please go aside and talk about something? Trunks said very sincerely. Yes, Sun Wukong nodded seriously when he saw Trunks like this. So, the two of them quickly separated from the crowd and went to a place a few hundred meters away, and began to discuss in a low voice. Xianxia did not follow. Although he knew all of Trunks' secrets, he chose to keep it secret now. He even warned Trunks specifically that he didn't need to tell his own things, but just said everything he wanted to say to Sun Wukong. Including the fact that he wanted to compete with Sun Wukong, he could do it once. When Trunks transformed into a Super Saiyan, the onlookers were shocked again. This shock was not just about the addition of a strong man, but also about how there was suddenly another Saiyan who was supposed to be extinct, and this one was also a Super Saiyan. People who are not Saiyans cannot become Super Saiyans. If they can become Saiyans, then where did this Saiyan come from? At this moment, Vegeta's expression was very uneasy, but his extremely smart brain was also working fast. Vegeta and Bulma are together. In another world, maybe it's just because Bulma is lonely that they are together. But in this world, maybe Trunks also traveled here. Xianxia guessed so, but he didn't tell anyone about this guess. Bulma and Vegeta are actually a good match. Xianxia didn't want to destroy the two of them because of his relationship. I originally came here to ask you to help stop the appearance of androids, but now it seems that even if I don't come, you can still change the future. When Trunks said this, he looked at Xianxia. Did he come with you? Sun Wukong also looked at Xianxia. When he came back, he had already sensed it. On Earth, a very powerful person suddenly appeared and destroyed both Frieza and his son. At first, he thought that person was Trunks, but after Trunks transformed into a Super Saiyan, he knew it was not. Because the power he sensed at that time was obviously much stronger than Trunks. No, I don't know whose specific identity, but maybe this is the effect of my traveling through time and space, causing some things that shouldn't have happened to happen here. When Trunks said this, he scratched his head helplessly. You came here to save our future, so it doesn't matter if there are any new changes, at least, we don't have to die in a few years. Sun Wukong was very cheerful. For him, it didn't matter what the future would be like or what impact Trunks would have. What was important was that Trunks' intention to come here was good, and the changes he brought were also good. He knew that new enemies would appear soon, and Trunks also gave him medicine that could cure heart disease. Now there was another person who was more powerful than both of them. Thank you for your understanding, Trunks said very sincerely. In addition, please keep my life experience a secret, otherwise I might not have been born. Trunks said something he had to pay attention to. Don't worry, I'm the most tight-lipped, Sun Wukong said with a solemn oath. Thank you very much. The conversation between the two ended here. Trunks did not come back, but turned around and left. Chapter 781 Genetic Science. Sun Wukong came back here very quickly. He was thinking about how to tell everyone present what Trunks said. Tell them. This matter concerns the lives of all of us, right? While Sun Wukong was still hesitating, Piccolo spoke first. Ah. Piccolo, you heard everything. Sun Wukong's face was full of horror. He had agreed not to tell outsiders about this matter. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone about him. I just want to tell everyone about what is going to happen later. Piccolo was an extremely smart person. He naturally knew how to deal with such things. Okay, then you tell me. Sun Wukong's other abilities may be average, but he knows his companions very well and trusts them very much. So Piccolo repeated what Trunks said to Sun Wukong, that is, about the fact that the androids will appear in 3 years and that they will kill everyone afterwards. Everyone was shocked to learn the truth, but they recovered quickly afterwards. Although the disaster will come, since it is inevitable, we should try our best to resist it. None of the Z fighters are the kind of people who are timid, so none of them will lose their will because of this, but will train themselves with more fighting spirit. After that, everyone left separately. They wanted to use their own methods to further train their combat effectiveness. Xianxia, aren't you going with us? When Bulma was about to leave, she looked at Xianxia again. I think maybe it will be more useful if I go with Son Goku and the others. Xianxia looked at Son Goku, and Son Goku was also looking at him at this time. Xianxia could understand Son Goku's idea. Facing someone who is stronger than himself, he can have better motivation when training. He can master more skills from Xianxia and cultivate stronger combat power. And Xianxia also wanted to know more about this kind of pure physical combat. What is it like? In Bulma, Vegeta's training method is not suitable for Xianxia, and his personality will never discuss anything with Xianxia. Well, then you guys should practice well together. Maybe when that android comes out, you can solve it in no time. Bulma didn't say any more. At this time, it was the most important to solve the trouble that was about to appear, and it didn't matter what else. Let's go. After Yamcha finished speaking, he and Bulma took the plane back. Piccolo, you come with us too. Son Goku looked at Piccolo. The two of them are now very good companions, and Gohan used to be Piccolo's apprentice. Now that they have one more person to form a team, they can practice better. Okay, Piccolo naturally wouldn't refuse. So, the four of them flew together towards Son Goku's home. When they got home, Son Goku would definitely report to his wife first that he was safe. Although Chi-Chi complained about it, she couldn't stop Son Goku in the end. Moreover, Xianxia also helped a lot, that is, he took out a pile of gold for Chi-Chi in one breath. With gold, they can directly exchange it for money, and the money they get will be enough for their daily expenses to live here. As for why they give gold instead of money, the development model of the Dragon Ball world is different from other worlds, and the financial system is also different from the outside world. It is not appropriate to get some money on the internet. Xianxia is not good at getting money directly from others. The best way is naturally to get gold from the gold mines hidden underground. After all, with Xianxia's ability, he can know which place has been discovered and excavated by gold mines with just a scan, and the extraction method is also very simple. Just use the micro-wormhole transportation technology to transport the gold element. Simple and direct. However, this is a piece of cake for Xianxia, but it has become a magical skill in the eyes of Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong used to work hard but couldn't get enough expenses for his family, but Xianxia got it done with one move. But these are all minor episodes. What they really need to do next is to practice. I heard from Trunks that you have much stronger power than him. I wonder if I can compete with you first. On the day of entering the training state, Son Goku found Xianxia. Challenging the strong is what the Saiyans like to do, especially Son Goku. He likes to challenge the strong. In Dragon Ball Super, he even went directly to the King of All to ask him to start the All-Universe Fighting Tournament in order to challenge the strong. My power actually comes from the technological capabilities I have, Xianxia replied. When facing Son Goku, he felt that there was no need to hide anything. He wanted to learn from Son Goku how to fight with physical skills and practice the fighting methods of the Dragon Ball world. Since you have a need, you need to give sincerely, otherwise it is a very shameful behavior to just ask for it without knowing how to give. Technology? So you are a scientist like Bulma? Son Goku was a little shocked. He didn't expect that Xianxia had such a strong power and was also a scientist. What you said, in a broad sense, is actually correct, Xianxia said. It's just that my actual technological capabilities are much higher than Bulma's. For example, for your heart disease, you don't actually need the special medicine that Trunks gave you. I can directly prevent it now. Xianxia had actually scanned Sun Wukong's body and knew his physical condition very well. Although the heart disease started during the chapter of the androids, it was actually in the onset period at that time, and the incubation period must have already begun. By adjusting the human genetic structure and so on, the body can be restored to its optimal state and all latent lesions can be removed in advance. This kind of thing is still easy for Xianxia to do. So powerful, Sun Wukong was a little shocked. Trunks traveled back from the future, and that was a technology that was only developed in the future. I didn't expect that Xianxia would be more powerful than the medicine provided by Trunks. It's just an application of genetic science, not a very advanced technology, Xianxia said. At the same time, he thought of some more critical information. Genetic science, speaking of it, aren't those androids created by genetic science? Especially the most powerful enemy 3 years later, the guy called Cell, who is made up of the fusion of multiple genes. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 782, Artificial Human Technology. Big Clock, scan the relevant information about androids for me, and lock on Dr. Gero who created the androids, and read all his technologies related to androids. When Xianxia traveled to the Dragon Ball world, the most useful thing for him might not be the fighting methods possessed by Son Goku and his friends, but the technologies related to androids. Among the androids created by Dr. Gero through technology, Android 17 can even shine in the All-Universe Fighting Tournament in Dragon Ball Super. This kind of powerful strength can already be described as amazing. And the android Cell is even more special. When he just became mature, he had the strength that surpassed all Saiyans and androids, and he was constantly improving in battle. It can be said that if Cell had not been eliminated early, but could have continued to practice hard, he would have more powerful strength than any Z fighter in the Dragon Ball world. It seems a bit too arbitrary. After all, in addition to talent, practice sometimes depends on understanding. Cell has the genes of all the strong men, so he is very talented. However, he cannot achieve Super Saiyan 2, Saiyan 3, and Super Saiyan God by talent and hard work alone. After all, in the Dragon Ball world, if we only talk about talent, the one with the highest talent should be Son Gohan, followed by Vegeta, and Son Goku can be said to be at the bottom. But Son Goku's strength has always been at the top in the Dragon Ball world. The reason for this result, in addition to Son Goku's own diligent practice, is naturally his understanding. When he was a child, he could use a rock-paper-scissors to play the effect of the boxing skills that others have practiced hard. He understood the method of transforming into the first-generation Super Saiyan in extreme anger. Every innovation and upgrade afterwards was completed by him. Even Son Gohan's Super Saiyan 2 was laid by Son Goku. Hey, What's the situation? Suddenly, Son Goku's voice came, and Xianxia felt someone tapping on his shoulder. Xianxia retracted his attention and looked at Son Goku. No, I just seemed to detect a very powerful technology being born just now. Maybe this is Dr. Nagaro. Xianxia found a random excuse to prevaricate. Haha, compared to finding Dr. Nagaro and killing him, I actually hope to defeat him in the future. Sun Wukong smiled. It's not that he didn't think about this problem. In fact, Bulma had raised it at that time. But at that time, Vegeta was the first to stand up and oppose it. Sun Wukong actually disagreed in his heart. Saiyans are warlike. They want to have a stronger opponent. This is in their bones, so they will not kill a scientist in advance just because they are afraid of the enemy. Well, since you said so, I will just pretend that he doesn't exist, Xianxia said casually. He said this just to find a reason to prove his distraction. He knew that Sun Wukong would not want him to find Dr. Nagaro in advance to stop him from studying artificial humans. Thank you for your understanding, Sun Wukong said with a smile. Nothing, I'm just a passerby. This planet belongs to you. You have the freedom to decide what you want, Xianxia also smiled and answered. Well, let's have a competition first. I want to see how powerful you are and think about whether there is any way to catch up with you. Sun Wukong is really humble. Okay, let's have a competition. After Xianxia said that, he spread his wings and put on armor. The fighting mode of super soldiers is to use weapons and equipment to display their strength. This is a huge difference from the Dragon Ball world that relies entirely on its own strength. At this time, Sun Wukong was not confused by Xianxia's actions. He is a pure martial artist and he respects everyone's fighting style. When I fight, I will use many weapons, some of which are even very dangerous. You have to be careful, Xianxia reminded that he had to let Sun Wukong be mentally prepared in advance. Oh, Sun Wukong naturally had no objection to this. As long as he could fight, it would be fine. Moreover, the more bizarre the opponent's fighting style was, the more challenging it would be for him, and the more motivated he would be to fight. Here it comes, Xianxia said, and pointed his right hand fiercely. A long sword suddenly appeared in the air and fell straight down towards Sun Wukong's position. This scene instantly made Sun Wukong feel more dangerous. He quickly stepped back 2 steps, and the long sword fell to the position where he had been standing before. Moreover, the long sword did not stay on the ground after it landed, but disappeared out of thin air the moment it landed, as if it had never appeared at all. It's really bizarre. Sun Wukong looked at this scene, and he was completely convinced of what Xianxia had said before, that his fighting style would be very dangerous. This is just the beginning, you must be prepared for it later, Xianxia said, and waved his finger again. At the same time, from behind Sun Wukong, the sword that had just disappeared flew out again. Sun Wukong was mentally prepared this time, so although the angle of this sword was more bizarre than the previous one, he was able to deal with it easily. However, just as he dodged, another flying sword appeared on the side where he dodged. At the same time, the third, fourth, and fifth swords began to appear from other directions. There is no way to avoid it, so just block it, Sun Wukong said, and at the same time, a strong energy condensed on his body, and then he kept swinging his fists and feet. The long swords that kept flying from all directions were either kicked away directly or caught and directly stuck into the ground. Don't be afraid when you attack. Even if my weapon is broken by you, I can quickly repair it afterwards. Xianxia saw it clearly. He knew that when Sun Wukong attacked, it seemed that he was afraid of damaging Xianxia's weapon, so every time he just knocked those swords away instead of destroying them directly. In this case, I won't be polite, Sun Wukong said, and he didn't hold back when he attacked. Those flying swords began to be broken one after another, and even a long sword that suddenly appeared from behind was shattered into powder by his strong energy. Not far away, Piccolo, who was originally teaching Son Gohan how to train, also looked over. Watching the battle between Son Goku and the Sword of Heavenly Destruction, he had already vaguely guessed what would happen next. Chapter 783 Sun Wukong vs. Li Qianxia. Qianxia stood in the distance, just watching, but Sun Wukong was already in the battle at this time, and was in an extremely busy state because of the elusive sword attack. Every time when Sun Wukong wanted to get rid of the entanglement of these weapons and attack Li Qianxia from other angles, there would always be a weapon that appeared in the direction where Sun Wukong wanted to get away. Qianxia had accurately calculated every move of Sun Wukong, and then accurately blocked it every time. Although Sun Wukong was not actually hurt, it was constantly consuming Sun Wukong's physical strength. Sun Wukong was a genius in fighting. Soon after the two sides fought, he already knew what his current situation was. However, he felt at the beginning that although Xianxia had a lot of weapons, there was definitely a limit. As long as he used up all of Xianxia's weapons, Xianxia would not have so many weapons to use, and such moves would not be able to be used. But after a while, Sun Wukong realized that Xianxia's reserve of weapons might have reached a very terrifying level. Or maybe Xianxia has some other means to replenish these weapons continuously. If not, Xianxia would not consume himself like this. Ha! With a roar, Sun Wukong's body instantly burst out with extremely powerful strength, and his hair turned golden at this moment. In Super Saiyan form, Sun Wukong is finally going to use his true ability. The space environment is disturbed, and the micro-wormhole solution is affected. The sound of the big clock came, and Xianxia naturally knew what was going on. The moment the Super Saiyan changed, its energy overflowed, causing a certain impact on the surrounding space. The energy distribution in the space changed, and the efficiency of the wormhole solution would naturally be affected. Sword of Judgment, Xianxia raised his hands suddenly, and then a huge energy sword was formed, slashing towards the position where Sun Wukong was. At this moment, Sun Wukong raised his hands suddenly and grabbed the long sword at once. However, there was a burst of black smoke constantly spreading out from the place where his wrist touched the sword. What a powerful attack! Sun Wukong exerted force with both hands, and the moment he slightly raised the energy sword, he had already moved behind Xianxia. What a fast speed, it's just like teleportation. Xianxia was shocked, and his body instantly transformed into two. Duplicate. Sun Wukong didn't expect that Xianxia actually had such ability. In the short time, he couldn't tell which one was the real body, so Sun Wukong could only punch hard and hit the one in the front. The fist blasted out and hit the clone directly. The clone instantly turned into countless golden light spots and disappeared without a trace. At this time, Xianxia had already taken back the energy giant sword he had chopped out. At this moment, he was holding an ordinary long sword. He turned his hand and slashed the long sword fiercely. Sun Wukong's reaction speed was also very fast. With his head tilted back quickly, the long sword just passed through his forehead and cut off a strand of hair. Big clock, merge the energy into my body and speed up my own speed. As Xianxia spoke, the dark energy around him began to shrink continuously and then merged into Xianxia's body. With the influx of energy, Xianxia's movements also improved in an instant. He raised his right foot suddenly and kicked Son Goku hard in the chest. Son Goku crossed his hands in front of him. Although he blocked the kick, his body flew backwards in an instant and finally hit a small hill more than 10 meters away, smashing the mountain directly. This movement made Piccolo and Son Gohan, who were watching the battle nearby, no longer calm down. In the state of Super Saiyan, he can be suppressed so easily. Son Gohan was very surprised. This was the fighting posture that easily crushed Frieza when he was on Namek. Now when fighting with Xianxia, he can't get any advantage. Xianxia's power is stronger than Sun's, and he has taken the initiative from the beginning. Under this situation, no matter how much Sun strengthens his power, he can't turn the tide of the battle. Piccolo looked at the scene at this time. He thought carefully about how to deal with it if he was in that situation. The result of his thinking was that he couldn't directly deal with Xianxia's attack anyway. Silver Blade, block. Xianxia waved the long sword in his hand, and a new batch of weapons appeared around Sun Wukong. However, this time it was no longer an ordinary sword, but a god-killing weapon made of dark silver. Even an attack that can easily pierce extremely heavy steel should be able to break Sun Wukong's body defense when facing the physical strength of Super Saiyan 1. Sun Wukong was in the smoke and dust of the broken hill. He didn't see the silver blades, but he knew what would happen next. So, his index finger and middle finger fell on his forehead, and his body disappeared instantly. Teleport. Xianxia's eye of insight had been watching Sun Wukong's situation the whole time. He had noticed the moment Sun Wukong used that move. However, even if he had known, it was too late to fight back. Sun Wukong had already appeared directly behind Xianxia, and a light ball in his hand blasted out directly. Xianxia's body was directly blown away at this moment. The armor behind him was under great impact at this moment, and it was damaged. This is an instant condensation and burst. Although the power level is not very high, the direct burst of damage is extremely strong. The data of the analysis came from the big clock. Xianxia saw that he was about to hit a big tree, and the longsword in his hand slashed out fiercely, and a space crack appeared in front of him. His ability in close combat was not as good as Sun Wukong, but the technology he mastered made him look omnipotent. Instantly broke through the space and disappeared into the space. Even if Sun Wukong could sense the existence of the surrounding aura, he still couldn't detect where Xianxia was at this moment. You can actually disappear completely, Sun Wukong said, his hands ready for battle, his eyes constantly shifting angles, looking for Xianxia's figure. I've worn my armor for so many years, and it's never been damaged. I didn't expect you to destroy it with just one hit. Sure enough, your fighting style is more special than the technology I master, Xianxia's voice came, but the voice had no direction, as if it appeared in all the surrounding space at once. Same here, Sun Wukong smiled, then turned around suddenly and raised his foot to sweep to the side. Chapter 784 Sun Wukong Broken Leg. With his kick, Sun Wukong thought he could definitely kick Xianxia away, but at the moment he kicked, his foot was broken into two pieces. Looking closely, he found that Xianxia was holding a longsword and pointed the sword directly at Sun Wukong. Dad, old son, the two people watching the fight from a distance were shocked when they saw this scene. Sweat dripped from Sun Wukong's forehead, and he felt a sharp pain from his broken foot. Sorry, it was a bit too much, Xianxia waved his hand quickly, and the broken foot was immediately summoned back, and then fell directly to the connection of Sun Wukong's broken foot. The next moment, Sun Wukong could feel that the incision of his broken foot was healing rapidly. When Sun Gohan and Piccolo rushed over, Sun Wukong's foot had completely recovered, and there was not even a trace of scar left. However, the neatly cut trouser leg proved that Sun Wukong's foot was really cut off just now. Your sword is even more powerful than the one of Trunks, Sun Wukong sighed. He had known that Xianxia had a sword in his hand, so he used his ki to protect his feet when he attacked just now. But despite this, his feet were still cut off, which means that the sharpness of Xianxia's long sword can directly cut off his ki. I made it with a very special metal, which is sharp enough to cut a planet directly. I should have expected this and put away this weapon, Xianxia said. He actually didn't expect that his weapon would be so powerful that it could cut off Sun Wukong's feet so easily. Originally, he thought that this sword could hurt Sun Wukong, but it was limited to hurting, not directly cutting it off. It's good to break it, so that I can have enough crisis awareness. Sun Wukong didn't care about it. In his opinion, his broken foot was because he was not capable enough. Now he is facing Xianxia, because Xianxia has the ability to repair, so he can recover even if his leg is broken. But if he was facing an enemy with such a powerful weapon today, and he was careless when fighting him and his hands and feet were broken, how could he continue to exert his full combat power? Xianxia's action was equivalent to ringing a warning bell for him, letting him know that when facing such an opponent with a weapon in the future, he must prevent the power of the opponent's weapon. At least he must first know whether the opponent's attack can break his defense. Dad, are you okay? Son Gohan had come to Son Goku at this time, and he was worried about checking Son Goku's feet. You two, just compete, how can you really hurt the other party? Piccolo was also scared at this time. If Son Goku broke a foot before the battle started, what would they do to deal with the androids in the future? Pico, this kind of thing is inevitable, and don't you think this is a good lesson? Son Goku knew that Piccolo was anxious because he cared about him, and he didn't want to make Xianxia feel guilty for this, so he quickly explained. Besides, didn't Xianxia restore my leg? Look, there's absolutely no difference, just like it was never broken. When Son Goku said this, he did not forget to keep moving in front of Piccolo. Piccolo didn't say anything, but his face was still green with anger. Okay, it's okay. I will pay attention next time we compete. Son Goku walked forward, hugged Piccolo's shoulders, and then comforted him. Xianxia stood up and looked at Son Gohan in front of him. I'm sorry. I accidentally hurt your father, Xianxia said, while gently patting Gohan's little shoulder. Dad is right. If you experience something like this now, you can recover later, but if this happens when you face the enemy, it will be too late to deal with such a problem at that time. Although Son Gohan is young, he is a very smart child. He knows that this kind of thing happening in training is completely different from happening in battle. Well, you are very talented, Xianxia praised. In fact, everyone who knows the whole story of the Dragon Ball world will know that Son Gohan has the highest talent in the entire Dragon Ball series. However, Sun Gohan will be influenced by Chikai's thoughts in the future. His personality tends to be kind and lacks that kind of fighting spirit, which makes him have difficulties in martial arts. In the Dragon Ball world, most warriors practice continuously for 10 years. Only Sun Gohan is intermittent. In the Saiyan chapter of Dragon Ball Z, he practiced for the first time. He practiced for a year under the strict requirements of Piccolo, and then became a real warrior with fighting power close to Krillin. After the Frieza chapter, in order to deal with the upcoming artificial human incident, Sun Gohan trained under Piccolo and Son Goku, and later after a year of hard training in the time chamber, he became the first person in the Dragon Ball world, the first person to practice Super Saiyan 2. But for 7 years afterwards, Sun Gohan stopped practicing, and just read and did housework every day. At the beginning of the BUU story, in order to participate in the world's #1 martial arts tournament, he only practiced for a month and his fighting power was almost restored. But after the BUU story began, he was taken to the Kaishin realm by the Kaishin, and after being trained by the old Kaishin, he became the #1 in the Dragon Ball world. Yes, at the end of the Dragon Ball Z story, although Kid BUU was killed by Son Goku, the #1 at that time was definitely Sun Gohan. BUU, who couldn't be defeated by Super Saiyan 3, Sun Gohan could directly crush him, but it was a pity that he didn't practice for a long time, and was overconfident in his own strength and underestimated the enemy, so he was absorbed by BUU. After that, whether it was Dragon Ball Super or Dragon Ball GT, Sun Gohan fell behind because of lack of practice. Sun Gohan has top talent, but he doesn't like to practice martial arts. It can only be said that Sun Gohan is not a purebred Saiyan, and there is no such strong militant element in his genes, so Sun Gohan is more willing to be an ordinary person when there is no danger. Son Goku and Vegeta are different. Even when there is no danger, they will continue to practice. They will never give themselves any chance to relax. After a long period of continuous practice, their combat experience and combat instincts are constantly improving, and their combat effectiveness is also continuously increasing. Under such circumstances, how could Sun Gohan achieve better results than these two? Chapter 785. This black technology is really black. The training for this day was considered to be over. Although Sun Wukong's foot had fully recovered after being cut off, Piccolo and Sun Gohan were worried about whether there would be any sequelae, and they insisted on letting Sun Wukong rest for a day. The next time was the hard training of Piccolo and Sun Gohan, and they fought each other. More of it was actually Piccolo's training of Sun Gohan. As for Scientia, he took advantage of Sun Wukong's rest time to start learning from him various fighting methods in the Dragon Ball world. The first is about the training of Ki. Scientia has very strong power, but a large part of this power comes from external forces. The dark energy and stellar energy available in the surrounding space, as well as the energy of the infinite gem stored in the big clock. Of course, Scientia also has powerful energy, such as the power of the Airseer and the Celestials contained in his body, as well as the void energy and chaos magic energy directly generated by the void controller. But these powers cannot exist in the form of Ki, so Scientia needs to understand the nature of Ki and transform his own power into Ki. And this way of training is also very easy for Scientia to master. As an ordinary person, Videl can easily master it under the guidance of Sun Gohan. Scientia has powerful power, so it is naturally easy to master it. In half a day, Scientia can already control the power in his body at will in the form of Ki. Scientia can easily control the use of Ki such as energy bombs and Kigen cannons. Even for flying, Scientia no longer needs the assistance of dark energy, angel wings, etc., and can completely rely on his own control of Ki and use the dance of air to perform. As Scientia gradually becomes familiar with Ki, the power emanating from him becomes stronger and stronger. If Scientia used to stimulate himself by mobilizing the energy around him to make Frieza and his son detect a combat power of 500 million, then now Scientia does not need to call on any super god technology. Just standing there, he has a combat power of 500 million. This is still pure physical combat power, the combat power of his pure Ki. Such a strong Ki. Your own strength should be much stronger than the Ki you are cultivating now, right? Sun Wukong originally thought that Scientia was only twice as strong as him or a little more, but now, Sun Wukong has a feeling that the power Scientia has shown at this moment is just the tip of the iceberg. My potential has yet to be explored. If it is fully explored, I don't know exactly how much it is. Scientia did not lie this time. He really couldn't evaluate how much power these God-level genes in his body contained. But if he casually exerted it, it must be at the level of a Super Saiyan. Your original fighting mode seems to use the energy in the surrounding space. With this fighting method, can't you fight for a long time without consuming physical strength? Sun Wukong recalled the previous battle with Xianxia. Although Xianxia was controlling the weapon to attack throughout the whole process, Xianxia's own ki did not change at all. Instead, there were some energy fluctuations in the surrounding space from time to time, as if someone was controlling these energies at will. Although each time was only a small part, the range covered by this energy seemed to be very wide. The science and technology I master can allow me to apply the energy of the sun and stars in the vast area of the universe to the battle. In a sense, the more energy the universe has, the more power I can exert. Xianxia really stopped hiding and told all his situation. Wow, Sun Wukong had already guessed it, but now he heard Xianxia say that he could control all the energy in the entire universe. He still felt incredible. The universe, he has traveled in the universe. From the Earth to Namek alone, there is no telling how vast the space is. All that energy can be used by Li Qiangyun. How terrifying is Li Qiangyun's strength? It is simply unimaginable. It's just in theory. In fact, to control it, I have to spend a long time in the universe to lay out, and then have powerful enough equipment to assist, in order to absorb the energy of the entire universe, and in the process of absorption and transformation, energy will also be greatly consumed, and in the end, only a very small part of it can be used. After listening to Xianxia's explanation, Sun Wukong was at a loss. But he soon forgot about it. The universe and the stars were all the same to Sun Wukong, and they were all things he couldn't understand. He only needed to know that the young man sitting next to him had very powerful power, and that was enough. Xianxia looked at Sun Wukong like this, and even without using the eye of insight, he knew what he was thinking, so he smiled. After traveling through so many multiverses and dimensional universes, it was the first time he met someone as simple and powerful as Sun Wukong. In the following time, Xianxia continued to practice for a while, and then went back to Sun Wukong's home with Sun Wukong and the others. Because Xianxia provided a lot of funds, the ingredients for dinner were quite rich. Moreover, although Kiki had a bad temper and her knowledge was more like that of ordinary people, she still thought that studying was the only way out for her son. But Kiki's cooking skills were really beyond reproach. The meals made were all very delicious, which made Xianxia, who was used to eating delicacies from all over the world, feel satisfied. After dinner, Xianxia returned to his room. The data of the big clock was retrieved. There was relevant information about the androids, and it recorded in detail the experiments that Dr. Gerald was conducting at the moment. Big clock, what do you think of this technology? Xianxia asked. It's definitely black technology, the big clock replied. Well, it's indeed black. Xianxia has mastered a lot of technology, which is also very advanced. He has traveled through so many worlds, combined the technologies of multiple worlds for integration, innovation, and then upgraded. Now Xianxia has a tendency to slowly surpass his father. But even so, facing the technology of this android at this moment, he still feels incredible. Let's not talk about other things for now. Just the setting of infinite energy is completely contrary to many cosmic scientific and technological laws such as the conservation of cosmic energy, Xianxia said, and directly unfolded a complete design in front of him. This design is Dr. Gero's design for infinite energy, which is also the most powerful part of those androids. Chapter 786 Further Absorption of Technology. The key is not how complicated this design is, but that it can actually succeed. Xianxia looked at the data and the situation after the big clock simulated the design drawing, and was a little stunned. I think the most important thing is not its infinite setting, but its output power, which can also increase with the improvement of the user's own strength. The big clock made an opinion. Yes, if it is just infinite energy, the infinite gems actually have this effect, but the energy output of the infinite gems has a specific power. If it exceeds this power, it cannot be further exerted. Xianxia nodded. His biggest reliance on being able to travel through the infinite dimensional universe is actually that he has integrated the technology of the combination of the big clock and the infinite gems into himself, so that the infinite energy characteristics of the infinite gems can be used no matter which dimensional universe he goes to. Although he can't destroy the universe with a snap of his fingers, the support of infinite energy has bound the lower limit of Xianxia's strength. In addition to the abilities of the 6 infinite gems, Xianxia can also exert them to a certain extent, such as controlling time, space, rewriting reality, etc. He can still exert them. Now, Wu Jun has come into contact with another carrier of infinite energy, which is the body design of the android. Moreover, the android has a setting of eternal youth and can improve its strength according to its own practice. Eternal youth is equal to eternal life, and practicing to improve strength means that his strength can be infinitely increased. If this is the case, the ultimate strongest person in the Dragon Ball world must be the android. Because, after 100 years of practice, the android may be able to catch up with Super Saiyan 2, but after 1,000 years of practice, Super Saiyan 2 will definitely not be the opponent of the android. After that, Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Ultra Instinct. Under the superposition of infinite time, all bottlenecks will not exist. The principle of dripping water wearing away a stone has long been widely understood in nature. Perhaps in the Dragon Ball world, androids 17 and 18 will not be able to become invincible in the end, because they are limited by life, their own diligence and talent, and cannot continue to become stronger. But if this technology is implanted into Sun Wukong, then the future Sun Wukong will definitely surpass all gods, because Sun Wukong will never be satisfied, and he will continue to make himself stronger. The more Xianxia thought about this, the more he felt how terrifying this android technology was. No wonder this place appeared in the infinite dimension he traveled through. The gold content of this black technology has surpassed all other technologies Xianxia knew. Big Clock, don't interfere with Dr. Gero, let him continue his research. We only need to record all the research processes and write down every detail. When he finally finishes, we will copy this technology and apply it to myself. Yes, Xianxia wants to use this technology. With his super soldier ability, combined with the invincible bug of this android technology, as long as he masters this technology, after a period of baptism, he doesn't have to fear any dimensional world or anyone. By then, when he takes Keisha to travel through the infinite dimensional universe again, there will be absolutely no danger. They can really enjoy the fun of this dimensional journey as they please. So, in the next 3 years, Xianxia did not stop for a single day. Originally, Xianxia only intended to test whether he could travel through the dimensional universe with other life forms, that's all. Therefore, in Xianxia's original plan, once the 2-year limit was up, he would immediately return to the Super God universe and take Keisha with him for the next infinite dimensional journey. Now, in order to fully master the technology of artificial humans, he has waited for 3 years, until Dr. Gero completely realized the experiment of artificial humans, created all those artificial humans, and activated them. Anyway, no matter how long it takes to come out, it will be 2 years after the time when they left. So in order to be safer in the future, it is natural to spend more time staying here. In a blink of an eye, 3 years have passed. Son Goku, Piccolo, Son Gohan, plus Xianxia, the 4 of them flew together in the direction designated by Trunks at the beginning. We agreed that you can't take action in this android incident, Sun Wukong said to Xianxia on the way to the flight. Okay, if you don't speak up, I will definitely not take action, Xianxia agreed. I thought that I would definitely surpass you in these 3 years, but I didn't expect that after you learned our fighting moves, your progress was so much faster than ours, Sun Wukong complained. If you took action in this incident, we wouldn't have to fight, and those androids would definitely be defeated by you in an instant. When Sun Wukong said this, Sun Gohan and Piccolo kept nodding. In the past 3 years, at the beginning, the 4 of them practiced with each other, and Sun Wukong would constantly compete with Xianxia. Sometimes Sun Wukong could find a way to gain the upper hand. But later, the situation was completely different. The 4 of them practiced, and Sun Wukong and the other 3 would beat Xianxia together every time. Obviously, their own strength was also advancing by leaps and bounds, but they could not beat Xianxia no matter what, because Xianxia's strength was rising faster than theirs. As for why Xianxia became stronger so quickly, it was because he had a strong foundation. The energy generated by the chaotic atoms in his body, after practicing Ki, could be said to have stimulated the instincts of his life form. In addition, Xianxia had been upgrading himself according to Dr. Gero's research, and now he had applied the technology of artificial humans to himself. The genes of people like Sun Wukong, Piccolo, and Frieza were all extracted by Xianxia and integrated into Xianxia's super genes. In this case, how could Xianxia's strength not be improved? In other words, Xianxia did not want to become a Super Saiyan, and he had never mastered the moves of transforming into God or opening the Ultra Instinct. Otherwise, if he continued to practice in this way and at this speed, he might be able to become a strong man at the level of the God of Destruction, or even an angel in the Dragon Ball world. However, Xianxia still had self-knowledge. Even if he became stronger, he would not think that he had the power to challenge the God of Destruction. His strengthening was actually mainly due to the strengthening of his own body, and this strengthening still did not exceed Xianxia's original strength as a technological god. Chapter 787, Trunks' background revealed. The four people arrived at the destination very quickly, and here, familiar faces soon appeared. Tien Shinhan, Yamcha, Krillin, Bulma. Bulma is no longer with Tien Shinhan, but she is holding a baby in her arms, and that baby is also a Saiyan. As soon as Sun Wukong saw the baby, he went up to greet him and immediately said Trunks' name. Bulma was naturally surprised, because she had not told Sun Wukong the name of the baby yet. Sun Wukong didn't know how to answer, and could only say that he was guessing. At this moment, Xianxia looked up at the sky, and a wormhole for time and space shuttle opened instantly, and the time and space shuttle appeared. Trunks appeared again, and his strength has improved slightly compared to 3 years ago, but the extent of this improvement is very limited. After all, there is no one to teach, and no one to explore with him. In that environment, it is really difficult for Trunks to practice alone. Mr. Li, Mr. Wukong, long time no see. Trunks, who had put away the time machine and came over, immediately greeted Sun Wukong and Li Qianxia enthusiastically. I knew you would come back at this time, Sun Wukong said with a smile. This matter is very important, so I naturally want to come here to know the final result, Trunks replied. Well, you don't seem to have made much progress in the past 3 years, Qianxia said, and then handed a bottle to Trunks. There is a video of my recent training with Wukong and others in it. After the matter of the androids is over, you can find a time to go to the time house with your father to train for a year, so that when you return to the future, you can solve the androids in your world, Qianxia introduced. Oh? Qianxia, when did you record the video? Why don't I know? Sun Wukong was a little surprised, because he clearly remembered that during the 3 years of training, Qianxia never took out a video recorder. My eyes are the video recorder, Qianxia pointed to his eyes. The Eye of Insight, as well as the celestial computer clock, not to mention that Qianxia has been training with Sun Wukong and the others for the past 3 years, even if he is far away in the universe and has just returned today, he can immediately read this information through dark data and record it. Awesome, Sun Wukong gave a thumbs up. Your father? Is Trunks' father here this time? Bulma stood aside. She didn't care much about this situation at first, but when she heard Qianxia mention Trunks' father, she immediately became confused. Trunks? You are wearing our family uniform, and you are also called Trunks. Could it be? Bulma is still very smart. Just from this small flaw, she immediately associated the result. This, Trunks was a little flustered. He didn't expect that his life experience would be exposed so quickly. Don't be nervous. We didn't tell you 3 years ago because we were afraid that it would interfere with your birth. But now that you have been born successfully, there is no need to hide this matter, Qianxia said comfortingly. Besides, have you forgotten what I told you 3 years ago? 3 years ago? Trunks looked up in confusion. Oh, you said at that time that my act of traveling through time was equivalent to creating a brand new world. Now the future of this world is different from the future of our world, Trunks suddenly realized. Different timelines lead to different worlds. Your act of traveling through time and space led to the emergence of different worlds. Now we are the intersection of 2 parallel universes. No matter what we do, it will not affect the future of each other's world, Qianxia explained, and these words made Trunks nod repeatedly. As for Son Goku, he could only scratch his head and couldn't figure out what was going on. Are you talking about the theory of parallel universes? Bulma stepped forward. As a scientist, Bulma has a pretty good foundation in this area. Yes, Trunks originally existed in the future, but after he traveled back through time and space 3 years ago, the 2 worlds diverged in the timeline, so now there are 2 parallel worlds, not just one world, Qianxia nodded affirmatively. Wow, Bulma, you are so smart. You can figure out such things so quickly, Sun Wukong couldn't help but praise Bulma. Of course, I am a genius scientist, Bulma said very proudly. But soon she realized that if all this was true, then the handsome guy in front of her was the baby in her arms. In that case, Aren't you my son? Bulma looked at Trunks with surprise and excitement on her face. Yet, Trunks nodded shyly. Although theoretically this is indeed his mother, this mother is still very young, and is not much different from his current age. In this case, no one would be able to accept this relationship all at once. Great, I didn't expect my son to be so powerful in the future. Bulma didn't think there was anything wrong. In her opinion, her son was able to transform into a Super Saiyan and kill Frieza, which was much more powerful than her unreliable husband. However, why did her son travel back from 20 years later? Could it be that the future Earth had been completely destroyed by those androids? Bulma couldn't help but worry. However, even if she was worried about this kind of thing, it would be useless. Bulma, it's too dangerous for you to stay with the child. Why don't you take little Trunks back first? Sun Wukong reminded. Although they were all confident that they could easily deal with the androids this time. But they were going to fight those androids after all. If they were not careful and a Qingyun wave fell on Bulma during the fight, wouldn't she and the child die together? Well, you should go back first, Xianxia said, and then pointed his right hand to the open space next to him, and a golden portal appeared there. What kind of ability is this? Bulma looked at this scene and was confused. Space portal, Xianxia explained. Space portal? Your ability is really unique, Bulma sighed as she walked in tentatively. As she passed through the portal, the other side was already her home in Zidu. The portal was completely closed after Bulma left. Chapter 788, The Fusion of Three World Dimensional Powers. After Bulma went back, the rest of the Z fighters also arrived. After some discussion, everyone decided to disperse and search, and after finding the androids, they should inform others as soon as possible. After all, there are only 4 people here who are confident that they can defeat the androids, namely Son Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo and Son Gohan. As for Xianxia, he said that he would just watch this time, and he would not take action directly against the androids. At this moment, when the Z fighters below were looking for the androids, Xianxia sat on the mountain and watched quietly. Xianxia saw the situation of everyone in his eyes, and naturally knew the situation of the 2 androids that appeared in the city. Others don't know where the androids are, but Xianxia doesn't need to rely on Ki to sense where they are, but directly locks them through dark data. It is true that those androids don't produce strong breath, but the machines in their bodies will produce high-power signals, which Xianxia can read accurately. In 3 years, I have practiced Ki and Kamesen Ryu's fighting moves, and mastered all the techniques of androids at the same time. I have gained a lot from traveling through the Dragon Ball world this time, Xianxia sighed. Now that there was no one else around, he could talk to the big clock without worry. Indeed, with this artificial human technology, plus the method of training the Kamesen Ryu, you will have the possibility of continuous strengthening in the future, the big clock agreed with Xianxia's statement. If Xianxia had always been walking the path his father had walked and was copying his father's success, then Xianxia now had finally found a way to completely surpass his father, Li Qingyun. Moreover, after completely integrating the power of the Dragon Ball world into himself, Xianxia further discovered that a multidimensional energy in his body had been further integrated. Now, he might be able to transcend all dimensional restrictions and truly be able to travel freely in the infinite dimensional universe. After all, it was under the joint efforts of Li Qingyun and Infinity that he was given the most powerful power in the 2 worlds, thus realizing his own infinite dimensional crossing. Now, he constantly absorbs the power of other dimensions during this crossing, giving him the ability to cross dimensions with other life forms. Now, he has learned the fighting methods of the Dragon Ball world, and has integrated the power of the Saiyans, Namekians and the Ice Clan through genetic technology. Through the technology of the androids, he has gained stronger power. This kind of power, even if it is just in the Dragon Ball world, has the potential to reach the peak. With the power of other dimensions that Xianxia already possesses, it can naturally break through further. Under such circumstances, it is naturally possible for Xianxia to master unlimited dimensional crossing. Boom! Suddenly, a violent explosion sounded from the city below. Xianxia instantly shifted his gaze, and then he understood the situation there. The androids finally met Yamcha. Xianxia looked at the picture there. Those were androids 19 and 20. These 2 androids were meeting Yamcha at this time. Yamcha's strength is basically at the bottom among the current Z fighters. The only one who is not as good as him is Gyozzi. But Gyozzi has long since withdrawn from the main battlefield. But Yamcha is still in the Z fighter team. Yamcha's talent is not bad. At least at the beginning, Krillin was much worse than him. But Yamcha was not as hard-working as Krillin in training. He probably spent more time in love during the past 3 years, so he was completely left behind. At this moment, Yamcha was immediately controlled by the android when he met the android. If he hadn't thrown an energy ball at the critical moment, causing an explosion, no one would have noticed his situation. Sun Wukong's reaction was the fastest. He felt the change in Yamcha's breath and immediately used teleportation to shuttle to Yamcha's location. Seeing Yamcha's situation, he kicked out without hesitation and kicked away Android 20, who was holding Yamcha's head and absorbing his energy. Yamcha was saved by Sun Wukong and was immediately fed a senzu bean. He escaped the disaster without any danger. Later, other Z fighters also came. These people immediately surrounded Sun Wukong and Yamcha, and their eyes were all locked on the two people in front of them, one fat and one thin. "Are these androids?" Sun Wukong asked. Trunks was confused at the moment. "We are androids." Before Trunks could give an answer, Android 20, who had just been kicked away by Sun Wukong, spoke first. Sun Wukong's kick was indeed powerful, but the actual damage it caused was not very high. The reason was very simple. Sun Wukong did not even become a Super Saiyan, and the lowest combat power of the androids was at the upper middle stage of Super Saiyan. They are indeed androids, but they are not the two I know. Trunks also reacted at this time, and he also remembered what Scientia had said to him before. Once a person travels through time and space, a completely different parallel universe will be formed between the two timelines. This world has already embarked on two completely different timelines with his world. Different timelines have different things happening, so the changes caused by them will also be different. However, there were suddenly two more androids, which was a huge difference. "Are they not the two you know?" Krillin looked confused. "Humph. Who cares? This time we are absolutely sure that we can take these guys down," Piccolo snorted coldly, but he didn't care about these androids at all. 3 years of training, and training under the pressure of a strong man like Li Qingyun. The strength of each of them now is not comparable to that of the original timeline. He didn't believe that these androids in front of him could still compete with him. "Hey, since you are androids, do you want to change places with us?" Sun Wukong was about to say that they should fight in another place, but the next moment, the scene in front of them was completely different. At the moment when Sun Wukong spoke, all of them were transferred to a deserted and empty area. This scene stunned many people present. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 789 Playing Surveillance in Front of Me? Scientia still understands me, Sun Wukong smiled. While many other people didn't understand the situation, he already knew that all this must have been done by Scientia. In the past 3 years, Scientia learned many martial arts of the Turtle Skull from Sun Wukong. And Sun Wukong also knew many abilities of Scientia. This ability of space transfer is one of the abilities that Scientia mastered. However, in the past, space transfer was done by Scientia alone. Now, Scientia has never used it to transfer everyone at once like they did, and there was no sign in advance. But Sun Wukong couldn't think of another person who could do this. "Scientia? Are you saying that all this was done by the boy named Scientia?" Krillin was shocked. "This ability is too terrifying, right?" Yamcha was also shocked, because he had already thought of the terrifying use of this ability. For example, throwing all of them into the universe. With their human body structure, it is difficult to survive in the universe, and they will die soon. If they are more cruel and throw them directly into the sun, then they will have no chance of survival. "Scientia? Who is that?" On the other side, Android 20 was also looking at Sun Wukong with a strange expression. As the incarnation of Dr. Gero, Android 20 was very clear about the situation in the outside world, because over the years, the small robots he sent out have been working and they have always been sending back news from the outside world. However, under such circumstances, he has never heard of any news about Scientia. Feeling confused, Scientia was in the distance, looking at the situation of Android 20 at this time, but he smiled slightly. He raised his hand casually, and a small insect like a mosquito fell into his hand. This so-called small insect was actually a small robot. It was released by Dr. Gero to collect intelligence everywhere on the Earth. I am the god of technology. Your little tricks may work against other people, but it is too rubbish to use against me." Xianxia pinched the small insect casually, and the small insect was broken into pieces. In fact, the moment Xianxia just entered this world, he had already noticed the existence of these small robots, but he didn't mind. Because he could hack into the information systems of these small robots at any time, and he could also modify the information recorded inside them at will. The reason why the small robots have been working all the time, but there is no update about Xianxia, is because Xianxia does not want Dr. Garo to know about his situation, so he directly changed the data he collected. In the distance, on the wasteland, Sun Wukong and the androids were still confronting each other. Dr. Garo was very curious about who the Xianxia that Sun Wukong was talking about was, and why he was transferred to this place for no reason. At this time, Sun Wukong just smiled. If he doesn't want you to know, then you don't have to know. Anyway, we have changed the environment now, so why don't we have a good fight here? Sun Wukong walked forward, and the look of rubbing his hands eagerly showed that he couldn't help but want to have a good fight with these so-called androids. Humph. Do you think such a trick is really useful? Android number 20 snorted coldly, and then flew up. For so many years, I have been monitoring all of you. Your fighting moves, your abilities, everything is in my data chip. You are no match for me. After saying this, Android 20 raised his hand and fired an energy cannon at Yamcha, the weakest of the group. Sun Wukong had been prepared for this, and he casually raised his hand, and the energy ball was knocked out. Then, Sun Wukong flew forward and attacked Android 20. Sun Wukong was anxious to attack, because he was afraid that if he didn't fight these androids properly, Xianxia would not be able to help but attack, and he would have no chance. Facing Sun Wukong's attack, Android 20 was very calm. He just waved his hands casually, and easily blocked all of Sun Wukong's attacks one by one. Even his occasional attack forced Sun Wukong to be embarrassed. These guys, could it be that they really know all of Goku's moves? Krillin looked at the two people fighting in front of him and couldn't help but worry. In the current situation, Goku's strength was not worse than the android on the other side, but every time the android made a simple move, it was right at Goku's weakness. If they didn't know the flaws in advance, how could they capture the movement so accurately? Humph. Vegeta, who was listening to Krillin's words, snorted coldly, his tone full of sarcasm. Vegeta, what do you mean by this? Krillin looked at Vegeta like this, and his heart was extremely depressed, and he immediately questioned. Knowing the moves can win? If that's true, then you can easily defeat Kakarot. Vegeta didn't answer, but asked two questions in a row. This, Krillin finally reacted. Yes, if we talk about knowing each other's moves, no one knows Goku's moves better than them. They are all people who have practiced in the Kame style, and they often fight with Sun Wukong. In this case, they naturally know Sun Wukong's fighting moves very well. But even if they know Sun Wukong's fighting moves, they can't beat Sun Wukong, and the reason for not being able to beat him is very simple, because their actual combat power is too different. Moreover, in the process of fighting, pure moves are actually not very meaningful. The real key lies in the flexible application of moves. Each of them has experienced hundreds of battles. It is common to fight flexibly during battles and even create new moves during battles. In this case, the android only knows Sun Wukong's moves, so naturally there is no way to gain an absolute advantage. Now Sun Wukong can't beat the android, perhaps because Sun Wukong has not yet transformed into Super Saiyan. When there is a gap in combat power with the opponent, it will appear that Sun Wukong is unable to beat the opponent. After understanding this, Krillin is relieved. At the same time, he also pays more attention to Vegeta. Vegeta can see the problem at a glance, which is enough to prove the strength of his own strength. Vegeta, he must be stronger than before. Chapter 790 Vegeta takes action. Kakarot, if you continue to waste time here, get out of my way. I will kill these androids, Vegeta shouted angrily. Seeing that Sun Wukong was constantly testing the fighting power of Android 20, and was reluctant to transform into Super Saiyan and then kill the opponent with absolute strength, Vegeta was full of anger in his heart. No hurry, take your time, Sun Wukong replied. Although he seemed to be a little embarrassed when facing the attack of Android 20, he was smiling at this moment. You want to take your time, but I don't, Vegeta said, and then rushed out suddenly. But at the moment when Vegeta made a move, Android 19 also started to move. He quickly stepped forward and stopped Vegeta. Vegeta did not hesitate at all, and instantly transformed into a Super Saiyan, and then launched a strong attack on Android 19. However, when the fight really started, Vegeta found that he could not kill Android 19 directly. On the contrary, although he seemed to have an absolute advantage, he would continue to consume his vitality during the battle, but the opposite Android 19, although seemingly embarrassed, had no losses at all. Androids all have eternal energy, that is to say, they can maintain the peak state from beginning to end in the battle. It is definitely a stupid choice to fight a protracted war with androids. Vegeta is extremely smart. He only fought for a short while before he realized this problem. He immediately began to burst out with stronger combat power and his attack became more rapid. Under Vegeta's full strength burst, his power was much stronger than at the beginning, and Android 19 finally began to retreat under his strong offensive. From time to time, he was attacked by Vegeta, and his body seemed to be injured in many places. However, after each injury, he could always stand up again, and then continue to fight Vegeta in the original state. Vegeta was furious, and suddenly jumped up, clasped his 10 fingers together into a heavy fist, and smashed it hard on Android 19's head. In an instant, Android 19 fell to the ground like a cannonball, creating a huge pit. Android 19 also fell into the pit, motionless. Humph! Vegeta snorted coldly, and then slowly fell down. He came to the side of Android 19, looking at Android 19, whose eyes were closed at this time, as if dead. Nothing more, Vegeta mocked. But the next moment, Android 19 suddenly stood up, and his hands grabbed Vegeta's arms at an extremely fast speed. In an instant, Vegeta felt that his energy was being absorbed by the other party. It turned out to be a move that devoured my energy. I thought you, a robot, had such great abilities. Vegeta's face was full of disdain. It's not that he couldn't see that Android 19 had just faked his death, but he had discovered in the battle that there was a big gap between Android 19's hard power and his own, but he was calm during the battle. So, Vegeta wanted to find out what secrets these androids had, so he simply chose to use their tricks against them. Now that he saw that Android 19 was attacking by absorbing energy, he became even more disdainful. If you want to absorb, I'll let you absorb enough at once, Vegeta said, and then the energy on his body burst out instantly, and all the aura instantly expanded to the peak. Android 19, who was originally absorbing energy, immediately realized that something was wrong and was about to pull his hands back. But his action was too late. Vegeta grabbed Android 19 with both hands and held it tightly, and then the aura in his body surged again, and the energy instantly poured into Android 19's arms. The next moment, a huge explosion occurred, and Android 19's body exploded directly, and its entire body turned into countless fragments, leaving only a head intact. Vegeta raised his foot and stomped on it, completely crushing its head into pieces. Garbage, Vegeta mocked, but his breathing was a little disordered at this moment. He is indeed very strong, stronger than Android 19. But in the battle just now, he also consumed a lot of energy. Especially the move that defeated Android 19 in the end. He released powerful energy in an instant to force the body of Android 19 to burst, but this move itself also consumed a lot of himself. Although it seems that Vegeta is still strong at this time, still unruly and looking down on everyone. But in fact, Vegeta is already strong on the outside but weak on the inside. If he fights Android 20 directly at this time, he will definitely not be the opponent of Android 20, because the opponent's body defense is very strong, and it is difficult to kill him by conventional means. And the move that just killed Android 19 must not work on Android 20, the reason is that Vegeta no longer has so much energy to burst it. Vegeta in the original plot is actually the same. But Vegeta is too smart. He still maintains his strong attitude, and his direct and effective killing of Android 19 also scares Android 20. In the end, he actually chose to faint and then turned and left. This move seemed to make Android 20 escape successfully, but it actually gave Vegeta enough time to replenish his physical strength. He quickly found Krillin, asked for a Senzu Bean from Krillin, and then recovered to his peak strength, and then he was able to continue to crush Android 20. Unfortunately, Android 20 was very cunning. Even though Vegeta recovered his peak strength and caught up with Android 20 again, he finally took advantage of the fact that his breath could not be sensed in the special terrain conditions, and then successfully escaped back to his laboratory. Now, the situation is very different from the original plot. Vegeta defeated Android 19 in the same way, but Android 20 was still fighting with Sun Wukong at this time. Sun Wukong did not have a recurrence of heart disease, and he was in the best condition against the enemy Android 20, which made Android 20 completely unable to get any advantage. In addition, the place where Xianxia teleported them was a large wasteland, and there was no terrain around that he could use. Even if he wanted to escape, he couldn't escape at all. Damn it, these guys actually secretly hid such a weird helper and teleported us to this place. This is really troublesome. Android number 20 kept cursing Xianxia in his heart. Chapter 791, Artificial Human. Android 20, whose real identity is Dr. Gero. Now, under the attack of Sun Wukong, Dr. Gero can't get any advantage, and it's easy for Sun Wukong to defeat him. However, when Sun Wukong faced Dr. Gero at this moment, he was thinking about a question in his heart. That is, should he defeat him directly? According to Trunks, there should be 2 more androids behind Dr. Gero, and the strength of those 2 people is stronger than the current Dr. Gero. If he really beat Dr. Gero to death, will the 2 androids behind him not appear? Let him go, he is Dr. Gero himself. Only after he goes back, the 2 androids will be activated. Xianxia's voice suddenly came, reminding Sun Wukong, who was still hesitant. So, Sun Wukong waved his hand violently, forced Dr. Gero in front of him to retreat, and kicked him violently at the abdomen, kicking him out. Dr. Gero was originally thinking about how to escape, and when he saw himself being kicked away, he immediately turned around and started to run away. Sun Wukong did not chase him, and he also stopped Vegeta, who was about to chase him. Don't worry, this guy is just an appetizer. We can only meet the truly powerful androids after he goes back, Sun Wukong said, but Vegeta was already indignant about this. Let the enemy go and let him find a more powerful helper? Aren't you a little too proud? Vegeta seemed to be struggling when he just defeated Android 19. If there were 2 more stronger than Android 20, he might not be able to beat them. Moreover, Vegeta did not think that Sun Wukong would be stronger than him, because the current Vegeta was much stronger than Sun Wukong's Super Saiyan. Don't worry, there's still Xianxia. Even if there's any big change, we can ask him to help. Sun Wukong laughed, and he was really not in a hurry at all. However, his calm attitude made everyone else, except Son Gohan and Piccolo, who knew the inside story, very worried. The 2 little guys who had just come out to lead the charge had already required Vegeta to use his Super Saiyan strength to deal with them. These androids were stronger than Android 19 and 20. Could Son Goku really handle them? Let's go. Xianxia has given me the coordinates. We can find out the situation by following them. Son Goku had an extra direction in his mind, which was given to him by Xianxia. He flew slowly in that direction. Although Vegeta and others had some complaints in their hearts, they still followed behind him. A group of people quickly flew over a large and complex mountain range and finally arrived outside a hidden cave. Dr. Gero was indeed here, and he opened the entrance to the cave, entered the laboratory, and took out a remote control. This was the controller that could control Android 17 and Android 18, and it was also Dr. Gero's last resort. Although he had transformed Android 17 and Android 18, giving them extremely powerful powers. But these 2 people were unwilling to obey his orders from the beginning to the end. They were 2 pure war and destruction machines. If Dr. Gero had not had no other choice at this time, he really didn't want to release these 2 guys, because he was afraid that he would be attacked by these 2 guys. As the machine was turned on, the 2 androids finally came out, and everything that Dr. Gero was worried about finally happened. Android 18 took advantage of a gap and suddenly attacked when Dr. Gero had never expected it. He snatched the remote control and crushed it in an instant. Then, Android 17 came directly to the machine of Android 16, ready to release Android 16, who was as pitiful as them. When Dr. Gero saw this, he began to remind him in horror, saying that it was a failure and that bad things would happen if it was released. But what Android 18 hated most was being used as a tool by Dr. Gero. He said that Android 16 was a failure, just like saying that she was also an object. He immediately attacked in anger and knocked Dr. Gero's head off. Then, in front of his astonished eyes, he crushed his head with one hand. Well, it's really hot, a voice of praise came. Xianxia, who had been secretly spying, couldn't help but come here through space transfer. He clapped his hands and said with satisfaction, "Who is it?" Android 17 and 18 immediately turned their heads to look at Xianxia vigilantly. Android 16, who had just woken up, also stood behind 17 and looked at Xianxia with a blank face. After a moment, Android 16 spoke first. You have a similar aura to us. Android 16 is different from other robots because he is a pure robot. But the personality of this robot is very different from that of robots. He has the thoughts of a real human. A similar aura to us? Could he be a robot too? Android 18 was surprised. He has been here for so long, but he has never heard of the existence of other robots. No, he is not our companion. Android 16 naturally regarded 17 and 18 as companions. From the moment this android was created, his purpose was only one, that is, to defeat Sun Wukong. But other than that, Android 16 was very kind to everything else. He liked birds, nature, and all beautiful things. Number 16, you are very kind. It is not appropriate to be a robot that only knows how to fight. Why don't you stay with me in the future? I will take you to see this beautiful nature, Xianxia said, then raised a hand and gently tapped in the air. Then, some information in Android 16 was completely changed. And the only part that was changed was that he didn't have to fight Sun Wukong anymore. No matter what you do in the future, you can decide according to your own wishes, and you don't have to be restricted by any instructions. You can even decide whether to defeat Sun Wukong, Xianxia said, and at this moment Android 16 was looking at him blankly. He was freed so easily? Chapter 792. This hug was a little unexpected. Android 16's body and mind were completely liberated. Now he was completely free from any restrictions, even the setting of fighting against Sun Wukong no longer existed. I have kept the bomb in your body, but it will not be affected by anything except your own will, that is to say, it will become part of your power. If you plan to die with someone one day, you can detonate it. At other times, it will not have any effect on you. Of course, if you really don't like this bomb, I can also help you take it out directly, Xianxia said, and at this moment, Sun Wukong and others also came in, and they also saw Xianxia here. Hearing what Xianxia said, Sun Wukong and others fell silent. It was not until this time that they knew that the androids were all equipped with bombs. If the command is not completed, the bomb will explode. Is it true that the androids in the future world are always destroying things just because of the bombs in their bodies? No, just keep it, Android 16 said. But I still want to fight with Sun Wukong. When Android 16 said this, he turned his head to look at Sun Wukong. Although I am no longer restricted by the order, the purpose of my creation is to challenge Sun Wukong, so I also want to fight with Sun Wukong to see if I have the strength to defeat him, Android 16 said his inner thoughts, a simple idea of challenging someone. Okay, I accept your challenge. Sun Wukong was the first to stand up. He originally thought that the appearance of Xianxia had ruined his plan to challenge the strong. Now that he heard that there was an android who wanted to fight him, he was of course very happy. What about you? Do you want me to help you take out the bomb? Xianxia looked at Android 17 and 18. Since they have already taken action, let's solve the problem at once. Although these two were destroyers who did all kinds of evil in the world where Trunks was, they finally turned over a new leaf in this world. Moreover, they were originally just two ordinary people, but because they were chosen by Dr. Gero, they were eventually captured and used as tools for experiments. Now they can live only after the experiment is completed, but what if the experiment fails? Then won't they become like so many androids before, and be ruthlessly destroyed in the end? What's more, Dr. Gero has installed bombs in their bodies, forcibly setting them to explode if they are not destroyed. This means that they have long been regarded as a weapon of destruction. What is your purpose in helping us like this? Android 18 asked. There is no purpose, I just feel sorry for you, Xianxia said. Who said we are pitiful? We are not at all. 18 was still stubborn, but suddenly, Xianxia came in front of her and gently stroked her hair. Over the years, the anger accumulated in her heart because of being treated as an experimental subject was suddenly soothed by a gentle force, and the softness deep in her heart seemed to be completely opened. At the same time, the bomb in her body had completely disappeared. Whether it is pitiful or not, you know it in your heart, and I know it too. I just don't want to see you living in that shadow forever. Xianxia really felt sorry for these two androids. During these 3 years, the big clock has been monitoring Dr. Gero's every move, so the whole process of the transformation of androids 17 and 18 has been recorded by the big clock. Just now, Xianxia read the information of these two people and saw everything in the past. Two good people were transformed casually as if they were test subjects. Why didn't Xianxia take a closer look? If he had seen it earlier, he might not have allowed it to happen. It's a pity that Xianxia was practicing with Sun Wukong and others at that time. He asked the big clock to pay attention to Dr. Gero just to obtain technology and didn't care about other details. Now that he knows, it's not easy for him to go back and change history. And it's not appropriate for Xianxia to erase other people's past. However, Xianxia's subconscious action was like a ray of forgiveness in the heart of 18, which instantly illuminated this android who had become indifferent in countless experiments. The tenderness in her heart was completely awakened. At this moment, she didn't care about so much anymore. She actually threw herself into Xianxia's arms and hugged Xianxia tightly. This scene surprised everyone around, and even Xianxia himself felt a little unbelievable. Kesha, you can't blame me for this. I just pity her background. I didn't expect her to be like this. Xianxia was a little panicked. He had promised Kesha many times that he would never have sex with other women. But now this situation has appeared so vividly, and he also read the thoughts of number 18 and knew that this woman really fell in love with him. Until this moment, Xianxia remembered that in the original plot of Dragon Ball, the reason why Krillin was able to win the heart of number 18 was because Krillin made a wish to the dragon to remove the bombs in the bodies of the androids number 17 and number 18. After removing the bombs of a short man like Krillin, number 18 would fall in love with him unconditionally, and finally marry him and have children, and live happily together for the rest of their lives. Now Xianxia is much more handsome than Krillin, and he not only helps her dismantle the bomb in her body, but also uses his ability to heal her wounds. Isn't number 18 going to fall in love with him? Suddenly, Xianxia looked at number 17, and he realized that number 17 was also looking at him with burning eyes. Number 17, you don't want to hug me too, do you? Xianxia asked subconsciously. No, I'm not a pervert, number 17 quickly explained, and then turned away awkwardly. Xianxia was relieved, but facing number 18 who was still hugging him tightly, he was a little embarrassed for a while. Pushing someone away mercilessly? She has suffered 1,000 tortures, and now she has finally found someone to comfort her heart and release her grievances for many years through a hugging. If he is so indifferent, it would be too cruel. Let her continue to hug like this? But isn't this a betrayal to Kesha? Didn't he say that he would not be a second father and would not be merciful everywhere? He hesitated like this, and hesitated for several minutes. In the end, number 18 finally recovered and let go on his own. Chapter 793 Kesha's Sneeze. At this moment, the entire cave was completely silent. Android 16, who had wanted to challenge Son Goku, and Vegeta, who was excited to choose an opponent, as well as the other Z fighters who came to watch, were all equally stunned. Xianxia pretended to cough twice before speaking. Well, I had agreed with Goku that I would not take action this time, but seeing how much the two siblings had suffered under Dr. Gero's experiment, I couldn't help but take action. Goku, Piccolo, let's end this matter here, and we won't fight the androids anymore. How about that? Xianxia looked at Goku, Piccolo and the others. These people had been training hard for 3 years just to compete with the androids, but now they suddenly couldn't fight anymore. Naturally, he was depressed, so Xianxia planned to explain it carefully. That's fine, but I feel like it would be less fun this way, Piccolo said. In that case, how about organizing a world's best martial arts tournament? Everyone can compete directly on the ring. Would there be any problems that way, and everyone can have fun? Android number 17 stood up. He knew that his sister was in an awkward moment and needed a reason to attract other people's attention again. The world's best martial arts tournament was the easiest way to solve this problem. Well, very good, then let's hold the world's best martial arts tournament. Xianxia quickly took the reason handed over by number 17. Don't worry about the entire venue in the competition, I'll take care of it, Xianxia said, and then a message quickly spread across the entire planet. The more efficient he is now, the faster he can distract everyone's attention. Moreover, if he is busy with these things, he can temporarily forget that he was hugged by android number 18 just now. He kept thinking whether Kesha would have some kind of telepathy because of this, and if she knew about it in the future, would she break up with him directly? At this moment, in another dimension, Kesha was sneezing twice for no reason. Queen Kesha, what's wrong with you? Angel Yan looked at Kesha in surprise. She had never seen Kesha sneeze in the past thousands of years. It seems that something happened, and it made my nose itchy. Kesha rubbed her nose and explained. We are all holy bodies. In this case, we shouldn't have a cold or allergies. Sneezing is probably caused by some special situation. Do you want to go to Earth to find Jezailan and the others? Angel Yan asked. Now that the Super God universe has tacitly acknowledged that Jezailan is the strongest, Li Qingyun has taken half of the people back to the Super God universe. Kesha didn't know what happened to cause the sneeze, so she could only go to Jezailan. No, it's just a small sneeze. Kesha didn't do what Kesha said. In her opinion, this little problem didn't need to be nervous. Moreover, Kesha also had a vague feeling that this should have something to do with Xianxia. That stinky boy who haunted her. In the Dragon Ball world, under the personal operation of Xianxia, a world-class martial arts tournament was soon fully prepared and officially held. In order to make this game more exciting, Xianxia not only let all the androids and Z-warriors participate, but also brought Cell over. At this time, Cell had just begun to develop and had not even begun to devour the vitality of humans. However, Xianxia helped him and directly absorbed a large amount of energy from the surrounding universe, pushing Cell from the larval stage to the mature stage. At this moment, Cell, standing in a secluded corner of the backstage, was shocked when he saw himself evolving into a mature stage. Don't think about attacking the androids. As long as you can enter the quarterfinals, I will directly evolve you into perfect form. But if you can't even enter the quarterfinals, then you are a complete waste, and there is no point in advancing to perfect form, Xianxia said as he looked at the killing in front of him. Why do you want to help me? Besides, aren't you afraid that I will crush all of you in return and kill you too? Cell has actually realized that he is now controlled by Xianxia. From the fact that Xianxia suddenly appeared, found him accurately, and caught him with one hand, he knew that the strength of this young man who appeared inexplicably was very terrifying. Especially now, the other party can even provide him with the energy to enter the perfect body. What kind of person can do this? God? No, according to the data collected by Dr. Jero's computer, the gods on Earth, even the so-called King Kai, do not have such powerful abilities. Don't think about it. How much I can give you can be taken away from you directly. I am now the maker of the rules, and no matter how you jump around, you can't jump out of my rules. Xianxia is really confident, because the so-called Cell in front of him, even if he enters the perfect body and finally upgrades to Super Saiyan 2, is not enough in Xianxia's eyes. After combining his own technological capabilities with a combat system, Xianxia's strength has now exceeded the scope that ordinary people can understand. Moreover, Xianxia knew when he first crossed over that in this universe of the Dragon Ball world, unless he alarmed the guys at the level of the God of Destruction and the Angel, no one could do anything to him. Therefore, now it was just a mere Cell, and Xianxia really didn't take it seriously. Humph, you may have the ability, but when you get to the ring, your friends may not be able to have such a level. Cell snorted coldly, but he didn't dare to question Xianxia anymore, but began to doubt the other people who were fighting with him. In Cell's view, as long as he didn't meet Son Goku at the beginning, then no one else could stop him from entering the quarterfinals. As long as he entered the quarterfinals, when he became a complete body, even Son Goku, even if everyone else joined forces with Son Goku, would no longer be his opponent. Except Xianxia. Xianxia didn't care what Cell was thinking, he turned around and went back to Son Goku and the others. 18th came forward at the first time. After hugging Xianxia, this beautiful android is now really dependent on Xianxia. She thinks of Xianxia all the time in her heart, and she has even thought about going directly to her body. However, Xianxia has reservations about her and is unwilling to accept her feelings. Chapter 794, the world's #1 martial arts tournament. Who is that guy? Android 18 couldn't flirt with Xianxia directly now, so she found some reasons to get close to Xianxia. And they were reasons that really needed attention anytime and anywhere. She had to speak before everyone else, because only in this way could she have more opportunities to chat with Xianxia. Cell, he is also a cyborg created by Dr. Jero. Xianxia knew what 18 was thinking, but facing this situation at this time, he couldn't just face it coldly. He is a cyborg. 18 frowned instantly. It's not like she had never seen cyborgs before, and she herself was one. But everyone had seen what the cyborgs before were like. Even if not every one of them was as handsome as her in 17, they were all decent human beings. The Cell in front of him was different. He looked like a monster no matter how you looked at him. Except for the outline that looked a little like a human, the rest of him looked like an animal. This was clearly a monster, or a monster. He is not a traditional android. He was created by mixing the genes of all the strong men collected by Dr. Gero and breeding them. In his setting, he originally needed to devour UN number 17 before he could finally evolve into a perfect body with extremely terrifying power, Xianxia explained. When number 18 heard that the other party was going to gain power by devouring himself in number 17, he instantly felt like he was facing a great enemy. When he looked at Cell, his face became very alert. Don't worry. All his original power is based on vitality. He needs to absorb a large number of humans and you two brothers and sisters to become stronger, but now I have changed it a little. I can directly inject energy into it through some means, so that it can enter the mature stage or even the perfect state. I promised him that as long as he can enter the top 8, I will promote him to a perfect body. This time, he can be the biggest dark horse for all of you in this world's number 1 martial arts competition. It depends on whether you can stop him, Xianxia explained. Sun Wukong next to him was immediately happy when he heard this. That's good. With an invisible strong man, we can better show our strength, Sun Wukong said excitedly. You took the initiative to create a strong man. Are you really not afraid that you will lose control by accident? Vegeta's tone was very cold. This requires devouring Android 17 and 18 to evolve into complete form. Although Vegeta is very confident in his current strength, this is only limited to one-on-one with androids. After all, when fighting with Android 19, although Vegeta won, he still used a lot of strength. Android 17 and 18 are stronger than Android 19, even if they are not much stronger, they are definitely stronger. Otherwise, Android 20 would not be killed instantly by Android 18. Vegeta felt that he should be able to defeat it if he used all his strength. But if Cell absorbed 17 and 18 in one breath, his combat power would definitely be more than twice as strong as the two androids themselves. In this case, Vegeta, really has no chance of winning. Vegeta felt that he couldn't beat this guy, and he didn't think there was anyone else on Earth who could be his opponent. In other words, if a complete Cell was really created, the Earth might really be destroyed. Don't worry, Vegeta, Tensha is very strong. With him, nothing will go wrong. Sun Wukong knew what Vegeta was worried about. But the tone of his voice made Vegeta even more upset. He's so strong, why are you so happy? You are a Saiyan from the fighting nation, and a Super Saiyan. You are surpassed by a guy who doesn't know where he came from. Can you still be happy? Vegeta questioned, while Sun Wukong laughed indifferently. He didn't care how strong others were. As long as this person was not a bad person and would not cause destruction and kill people everywhere, the stronger his strength, the happier Sun Wukong would be. Because this means that he has one more person to pursue and surpass. When Sun Wukong was a child, he faced Master Kame and the gods, and later when Sun Wukong faced the god of destruction Beerus, it was almost the same. The more powerful a person is standing in front of him, the more motivated he is to find ways to surpass him. This is a kind of motivation that can make people strive. By the way, I made a promise with him at that time that if he can finally win the championship, no matter what he does in the future, I will not stop him, Xianxia suddenly added. At this moment, Sun Wukong, who was originally smiling, immediately became serious. A monster created by humans, and growing by absorbing the vitality of others as nutrients. If this guy is completely left alone, the harm he causes must be extremely terrifying. I think you all understand what this means, so you should work hard in the next battle and try to stop him from the top 8, so that he can't do anything. Xianxia said so, but some people in the crowd had already cast complaining eyes. Obviously, you have the ability to solve everything by yourself, but you have to do so much? Is it really just to make this world's number 1 martial arts conference more interesting? Xianxia didn't care about these eyes. Originally, all this was what Sun Wukong wanted him to do, and he did this to satisfy Sun Wukong's wish. Moreover, it was also a very good enjoyment for Xianxia to watch such a wonderful game before returning to the Super Gods universe, and it was something worth remembering. At this time, the voice of the host came over. The world's number 1 martial arts tournament officially began, and the audience outside began to cheer enthusiastically. This time, the world's number 1 martial arts tournament was not only attended by Z warriors and androids, but also by martial artists from all over the world. Because it was held by Xianxia, he brought out all the things about the world's number 1 martial arts tournament in the original plot, and also included the bonus system. Moreover, the general was directly sponsored by Xianxia. Anyway, with his ability, it would not be too easy to make some money in this world. In addition, there is the entire competition arena, which was also designed by Xianxia himself. The stone of the arena itself is made of the hardest stone, and there are some space barriers outside the arena to protect the audience watching the game. After the game starts, Xianxia will also be a spectator, sitting with Bulma, Chi-Chi and their family members. Chapter 795 Top 8. The match started soon. The previous ones were almost child's play. The last 16 matches finally had something interesting to watch. Among them, the most noteworthy one was the duel between Piccolo and Cell. In addition, the matches like Son Goku vs Tien Shinhan, number 18 vs Yamcha, Trunks vs Krillin were also highly favored by Bulma and others. After all, they were all their companions and Z fighters. However, what Xianxia cared about most was the match between Son Gohan and Satan. The son-in-law versus the future father-in-law, how interesting. The battle started soon. The other battles were all without any suspense. Only when it came to the match between Piccolo and Cell, everyone got serious. The android that Xianxia specially found, and he could also be promoted to the perfect form by devouring the two androids number 18 and number 17. Your breath is full of evil. Piccolo looked at Cell in front of him with a serious expression on his face. Although he had never seen this guy, he knew his identity after Xianxia's introduction. Moreover, there was also news from the old god, saying that he could sense a very evil aura from him, and even said that he wanted to abandon his own body and completely merge with him. Piccolo knew what the old god meant. On the Earth today, Son Goku and others have become Super Saiyans one after another, and Piccolo's combat power has gradually fallen out of the first echelon. If he wants to keep up, the only way is to restore his own genes to perfect state by merging with the old god. In that case, with the original advantages of the two of them, they can be restored to the strongest state. In that state, Piccolo will definitely surpass the current Vegeta and others and become the strongest. As for why it is said to be almost instead of the absolute strongest, it is because Xianxia is still there. With Xianxia, a person who is completely unfathomable, no matter how the strength of everyone else improves, they dare not say that they are the strongest. Moreover, Piccolo can feel that the situation of Son Goku and Son Gohan is also somewhat different. It seems that these two have broken through another level and their strength has increased a lot, but so far they have not revealed it. Lord Piccolo, don't you think it's inappropriate for you to say this? Cell didn't care about what Lord Piccolo said, because he was originally evil. The purpose of his creation was to defeat all the Z fighters, and his growth depended on absorbing the vitality of humans to grow. In this case, if you say that Cell is not evil, Cell himself would think it's inappropriate. If you want to become a perfect body, you must enter the quarterfinals, but unfortunately, you don't have the chance to enter the quarterfinals at all. While Piccolo was speaking, he had taken off the heavy equipment on his body one by one and threw them aside. To fight Cell, he had to use all his strength from the beginning. Then let's try it. Let's see whether you, Lord Piccolo, are more powerful or I am more powerful. After Cell finished speaking, he suddenly flashed and disappeared from the spot. Cell had already launched an attack. He fell quickly from mid-air, clenched his right hand into a fist and punched hard, and the breath that burst out instantly exploded like a bomb. Piccolo had been prepared for a long time, but he was still shocked after being attacked. He didn't expect that this Cell, who was not yet in his perfect form, had such a strong fighting power, which was no weaker than the Android 19 and Android 20 he had met before. Oh no, Piccolo is going to lose this round. Sun Wukong watched carefully, and he had already predicted the final result of Piccolo. How could it be? Piccolo was able to fight back and forth with the opponent. Everyone around asked questions. Yes, at this moment on the battlefield, the battle between Piccolo and Cell did not directly determine the winner, but was still in the process of attacking each other. Piccolo's breath has been decreasing, but Cell's breath has always been peaceful, which means that Piccolo has used his full strength, but Cell still retains some strength. Piccolo can't win against Cell who didn't use his full strength, so when Cell decides to use his full strength, Piccolo will definitely not be able to hold on. Sun Wukong has so much combat experience that he can see things like this at a glance. The result was just as Goku had guessed. Although Piccolo had done his best, he still couldn't gain any advantage in the battle with Cell. The final result was that Piccolo's arm was directly pierced by the opponent's tail during the battle, and the vitality in his arm was completely sucked out. Piccolo's fighting power further declined, and he was finally kicked off the ring by Cell. The reason why he only sucked out one arm and then kicked Piccolo off the ring was also very simple. Because Cell was now afraid of Tensha, he was afraid that if he accidentally went too far, Tensha would directly kill him. "Uncle Piccolo, are you okay?" Gohan immediately stepped forward and helped Piccolo up. "I'm fine." Piccolo shook his head, and his arm that was sucked out quickly recovered as he mobilized the vitality in his body to infuse it. However, he lost this battle, and he had no way to stop Cell from entering the quarterfinals. "Some things, you should have made a choice a long time ago," Tensha came to Piccolo and said to him. "I understand what you mean, but even if I do it now, if you help him upgrade to the perfect form, I can't stop him." Piccolo knew what Tensha meant, but the matter had developed to this point. It was not a question of whether he would become stronger or not, but a question of how to stop Cell. "You don't need to worry about Cell's affairs, just do your own things," Tensha said, and patted Piccolo's back with one hand. A gentle energy immediately entered his body, allowing Piccolo's originally consumed physical strength to recover quickly. After his physical strength was restored, seeing Tensha still smiling, Piccolo didn't say anything more, stood up and flew into the sky. He had to complete something, a very important thing. In order to become stronger, Piccolo had to absorb the part that was originally dispersed. Only when the two of them were completely integrated could they restore their peak strength. And with the end of the battle between Piccolo and Cell, the top 8 contestants of this world's #1 martial arts tournament have all been selected. The people who entered the top 8 are Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, Trunks, Cell, number 17, number 18, and number 16. Chapter 796, Complete Cell. "Mr. Scientia, you promise me that if I enter the quarterfinals, you will help me advance to the perfect form. You won't go back on your word, will you?" Cell walked to the edge of the ring and asked Scientia. "I will do what I promised," Scientia said, and then he grabbed 2 golden balls of light in the air. "Swallow them, and they will help you complete the promotion to the perfect form." Scientia was about to throw the 2 balls of light, but Trunks next to him suddenly interrupted. "Are you really going to let him advance to the perfect form? Would that be too dangerous?" Trunks was a cautious person, and this was a character shaped by his experience. Now that he knew that the opponent's strength was already at the level that could easily defeat Piccolo, if he helped him advance to the next level, his strength would definitely be even more unfathomable. Even if Scientia was there to back him up, what if something went wrong? If Cell accidentally jumped out of control, wouldn't the entire Earth be in danger? "Don't worry, it's okay," Scientia said, ignoring Trunks' worried look, and threw the 2 light balls out. Cell quickly caught the light balls and stuffed them into his mouth without hesitation. As the 2 light balls entered his body, Cell's entire state began to change immediately. Cell, who was originally very ugly, became much more pleasing to the eye at this time. His aura surged, and he actually broke through the Super Saiyan barrier in an instant, and his whole body was wrapped in a layer of golden aura. Super Saiyan? How can he have the ability to transform into a Super Saiyan? Vegeta asked in surprise. Super Saiyan, that is the ability that only Saiyans and their descendants can have. He was created by fusing your genes. It's normal for him to be able to transform into a Super Saiyan, Scientia explained, with a relaxed expression on his face, as if he didn't care at all. "It turns out to be a stitched monster," Vegeta complained, but in his heart, he was full of vigilance and disgust towards this android named Cell. Because, just when Cell transformed into a Super Saiyan, he could feel that Cell's power was about to surpass his. This was the power that Cell released subconsciously when he just reached the perfect form. How strong he really is still unknown. The semi-finals are about to begin. The first match is between you, Vegeta, and Android 18. Are you ready? Scientia looked at Vegeta. This self-righteous Saiyan prince was destined to suffer a heavy blow today. Among the 8 people who entered the quarterfinals, Vegeta could not beat anyone except Trunks. Now, whether it was Son Goku and his son, or the 3 androids, their strength was higher than Vegeta, not to mention Cell. Humph, she's just an android. I can easily defeat her, Vegeta snorted, then flew into the air and landed on the ring. Around the ring, the audience who originally didn't understand those strange scenes, now saw that the next battle was finally about to begin, and then cheered. For these spectators, everything today was just like watching a movie. As long as they were satisfied and excited, it was enough. Scientia was the same. He just wanted to be satisfied and happy. Will you blame me if I beat this guy to tears? Before going up to the ring, Number 18 asked Xianxia about his attitude towards this. In the fighting ring, you can fight however you want, as long as no one dies and it doesn't violate the rules. Xianxia smiled. He knew that Vegeta would be hit hard by number 18, so at this moment, he didn't care how she attacked Vegeta in the ring. Well, I will definitely not beat him to death then. After number 18 finished speaking, he jumped up and landed on the ring. The two stood face to face, and a battle was about to begin. Under the ring, Cell looked at number 18 on the stage and began to think. I am now a complete form, but my strength is still far from that of Xianxia. I wonder if I can absorb number 18 and number 17 after I have become a complete form. If I can, maybe my fighting power can be further improved and I can surpass him. When Cell thought of this, his eyes looking at number 18 became hot. He is now a complete form. According to the original setting, if he can reach this point, he will have invincible power. But now, Cell dare not have this idea at all, because he knows very well that he can never be the opponent of Xianxia. Now, in Cell's view, if he can complete the last game and win the championship smoothly, it will be good to be able to save his life. He also wants to knock everyone down directly and finally become the master of the entire earth, which is simply impossible. Li Qianxia, he is like a mountain, and he has already pressed him to death. Qianxia is sitting on the ring at this moment, and the effect of the Eye of Insight allows him to read Cell's thoughts completely. That guy has bad intentions. Even if he really wins the championship, we can't leave him alone. The voice of the big clock came. Its data system calculated that Cell was a security risk. I said that if he wins the championship, I will not kill him, and I will not care about him anymore, Qianxia said. Are you really so confident in Son Goku's fighting ability? The big clock knows about Son Goku's situation. Because Qianxia has been training with Son Goku for the past 3 years, the big clock has also recorded all of Son Goku's situations. According to the records in the database, Super Saiyan 2 Son Gohan can easily defeat Cell. Now Son Goku, according to my feeling, he has already broken through Super Saiyan 2, but he just used it as a trump card and never used it, Qianxia said. This is also a very important reason why he can make such a promise to Cell. If he is not sure, Qianxia will definitely not let a threat exist in this world. Besides, I said I won't do anything and I can't control him, but that doesn't mean my father can't do anything. What do you mean? The database of the big clock couldn't calculate the information contained in Qianxia's words because there was no data to rely on. Now, I can use the ability of Dimensional Shuttle at will without any restrictions. Qianxia gave an accurate answer. Chapter 797 Qianxia's Confidence. Can you use the ability to travel through dimensions without any restrictions? Is this possible? The anthropomorphic system of the Great Clock was shocked. At the beginning, the Infinity of Marvel's Infinite Multiverse and Li Qingyun joined forces to give Qianxia the ability to travel through infinite dimensions, and this travel was random and had a time interval limit each time. But now, Qianxia has actually broken through all the restrictions. Doesn't it mean that the current Infinity has the power that surpasses Li Qingyun in Infinity? In the past 3 years, I have mastered the key training ability of the Dragon Ball world. As my own combat power continues to rise, my body has mastered the powerful power of 3 dimensions at the same time. Moreover, the power of the previous Transformers universe, DC universe and other dimensions has also been absorbed by me. I have now broken through the restrictions of all dimensional universes. In other words, I can travel through different dimensions at any time according to my own wishes and go to any time and space under a known time point, Qianxia explained in detail. Can't go back to before a known time point. The Great Clock read a question in this statement. There is already a dimensional universe where I existed. Going back to the past time point will cause chaos in the timeline of that universe itself. This kind of thing should not exist, Qianxia explained. And this explanation actually also illustrates a problem. That is, Qianxia is not unable to do such a thing, but he is unwilling to do such a thing. He just doesn't want to mess up the timeline. In this case, you have really made all preparations, so no matter how much this guy tosses, he can't make any big noise. The big clock no longer asked any questions, because even according to the calculations of its celestial computer, it can't calculate what kind of loopholes there are. Cell, created by scientific and technological means, is impossible to surpass Qianxia in strength in a short period of time, so the biggest problem at present is Qianxia's promise to him, that is, as long as he wins the championship, Qianxia will not attack him. But now, With Scientia's ability to activate dimensional teleportation at any time, if it is not convenient for him to attack at that time, he can just go back and bring Li Qingyun over. Although Li Qingyun did not practice the fighting skills and fighting ability of the Dragon Ball world, he himself is also a multiverse-level strong man, and he also masters the top power of 2 worlds at the same time. Facing a Super Saiyan 2 level Cell, it is also easy to deal with it. At the time when Scientia was discussing with the big clock, the battle between Vegeta and number 18 had already begun. Vegeta knew the ability of the androids to have unlimited physical strength, so he directly transformed into a Super Saiyan at the beginning, and used all his strength to attack number 18. But number 18 faced Vegeta's attack calmly. No matter how fiercely Vegeta attacked, he could always find a way to crack it accurately. So, Vegeta, who thought he had surpassed everyone except Scientia, suffered a major shock. He thought that he would be invincible in the world after practicing to Super Saiyan, but he couldn't even enter the semifinals. Minkian was the weakest of the 4 androids, and he couldn't even beat him. Vegeta was depressed, and left immediately after getting off the ring. He was looking for a place to vent his depression. The second battle was between Gohan and Android 17. The two fought fiercely, and they were evenly matched from the beginning. But in the end, Android 17, who had unlimited physical strength, lost to Gohan, who seemed to be the youngest among the contestants. "Your fighting power is so strong," this was the feeling that number 17 expressed when he was knocked off the ring. Gohan was very casual about it, just saying that it was all thanks to the teachings of his father and Piccolo, and it was the 2 of them that gave him the current fighting power. Number 17 naturally didn't care about it. Anyway, he came to participate in the world's first martial arts tournament just to see what level he was at and to satisfy his desire to fight. The victory or defeat didn't matter to them. Under the interference of Tensha, there is no real bad guy on Earth now except Cell. The third game was between Goku and Android 16. The battle between these 2 people can be said to be the most interesting so far, because the strength displayed by these 2 people is the strongest so far. Even in the state of Super Saiyan, Sun Wukong fought hard with number 16, and even in the end, when fighting with Kagan waves, Sun Wukong was almost suppressed. But at the last moment, in an instant, Sun Wukong released a stronger power and defeated number 16. The situation that had been evenly matched for a long time was reversed in an instant. Everyone with a discerning eye understands that Sun Wukong actually has a trump card that has not been used, and he did not use his full strength. The last game is Trunks facing Cell. There is no suspense in this battle. The perfect Cell has surpassed anyone in this time period in the original plot. Although the timeline has changed now and the combat effectiveness of many people has been improved, Trunks' combat effectiveness is no different from that in the original work. In fact, he is not as good as Trunks in the final battle. At least in the comics, when Trunks and Vegeta entered the House of Time and Spirit for a year of training, during which he was able to reach the level of Super 1 full power. After returning, he could easily defeat the androids number 17 and number 18. But now Trunks has not been trained, which means that he can't beat either number 17 or number 18. Trunks was defeated, but he didn't feel depressed. On the contrary, he began to worry about his father, Vegeta. Vegeta was the first to be eliminated, and he lost to number 18. He must be very uncomfortable. Scientia saw his thoughts and sent him a message, asking him to take the thing he had given him before, find Vegeta and take him to the heaven to enter the House of Time and Spirit. Trunks didn't understand the reason, but since it was only Scientia who asked him to do it, he didn't doubt it, and immediately left the venue to find Vegeta. And this round of the game is completely over. But the result is different from what many people guessed. Originally, most people thought that the list of qualified players should be Vegeta, number 17, Son Goku and Cell. But the first 2 guesses were wrong. Chapter 798 Super Saiyan 2. Vegeta, who was considered second only to Goku in strength, lost to Android 18, the weakest among the androids. Gohan, who was considered young and the weakest, defeated Android 17. That is to say, in the next semi-final, Gohan will fight Android 18, and Goku will fight Cell. Almost everyone knows that Android 18 is not as strong as Android 17. If Android 17 lost to Gohan, then Android 18 will have no chance. That is to say, Gohan has secured the promotion to the semifinals in advance. The question now is who is stronger between Goku and Cell. I thought we would decide the winner in the final battle, but I didn't expect that we would be in the same group, Cell looked at Goku with a smug smile on his face. Although he now knows that the Earth is now ruled by Scientia, who has the highest power to decide everything. But being able to fight with Goku has actually fulfilled one of his wishes. Every android created has the idea of challenging Son Goku, because this is the original intention of Dr. Gero to create androids. Therefore, even if it was an abandoned project, and Cell was accidentally created, he also had the idea of challenging Son Goku. And now, he can realize this wish in advance. I think this match is the most suitable. Son Goku smiled. He really thought that this match was the most suitable. In the original timeline, Goku, you finally gave up the duel with Cell and let Son Gohan finally defeat Cell, but now, will you still do the same as in the original timeline? Scientia looked at Son Goku and Cell on the ring, his eyes full of expectation. This world's first martial arts tournament, the decisive battle that really concerned Scientia, is finally about to begin. Show all your strength. I am not like you martial artists who will test you little by little. I will defeat you directly with one move, Cell said, and his aura surged at this time. Although his appearance seemed unchanged, the aura emanating from his body had turned golden. This is the state of Super Saiyan, and it is also the main reason why Cell is stronger than other androids. Super Saiyan? I'll do it too. After Sun Wukong finished speaking, he clenched his fists and shouted angrily. In an instant, his aura changed, and his hair and eyebrows all turned golden. This is a real Super Saiyan, completely different from Cell's state, a real handsome Super Saiyan. Boom. In an instant, Sun Wukong rushed out, his fist left a residual image in the air, and then fell in front of Cell. Cell's right hand also reacted quickly, and he stopped Sun Wukong's fist when it fell. The two began an extremely intense conflict, and the fighting effect between the two instantly filled the entire arena. The extremely strong aura set off gusts of wind, and the ring made of special materials was also damaged one after another. So strong, these two have just started, and the battle that has erupted has already surpassed everyone in front of them. This guy called Cell, his perfect form is so terrifying, the Z fighters sighed, and they finally realized how terrifying Cell was until this moment. No wonder at the beginning, Scientia said that Cell was one of Dr. Gero's strongest killers. Why did Scientia specifically bring him to the ring? If it weren't for what happened before their eyes, how could they have thought that there was such a terrifying guy hidden in this world? If Cell was allowed to develop without any defense, and Scientia had already left the Earth, would he inadvertently cause a huge crisis of global destruction? Bang! The two collided in the center of the ring, their arms collided with each other, and the strong aura continued to spread to the left and right. Scientia really understands me. No wonder he specifically let you advance to the perfect form before fighting me. Sun Wukong was very satisfied, and he was excited that Scientia actually arranged such an opponent for him. So it was you who asked me to do it. I was wondering why he would help me like this for no reason. It turned out that he was just trying to satisfy your willful wish. Cell said this, but he was mocking in his heart. Thanks to your stupid idea, if you hadn't insisted on doing this, with that guy's strong strength, he would have easily found me and killed me with a flick of his hand. Now, thanks to you, I can become a complete body, and I can beat you openly, and then I can prevent that guy from attacking me by winning the championship. Wait, as long as you give me enough time, one day I will surpass all of you and become the master of the whole world. Cell thought so in his heart, and then kicked out fiercely. Sun Wukong reacted quickly and blocked the attack with both hands. However, his body was also knocked back by this powerful kick. Son Goku, if this is all you can do, you're going to lose today, Cell said, clenching his fists. As his thoughts turned, his aura rose again, and it was even stronger than at the beginning. Since you want to see my true ability, then I'll let you see it. Seeing Cell like this, Son Goku finally made up his mind. Son Goku put his hands on his waist and took a deep breath. The next moment, his aura began to surge, and he couldn't help but start shouting in a low voice. But as his output of energy became stronger and stronger, Son Goku's shouting became louder and louder, and finally turned into a huge airwave that could affect the entire Earth. Vegeta, who was originally in a wasteland in the distance, was completely indifferent to Trunks' persuasion. After feeling this aura, he was instantly excited. He quickly transformed into a Super Saiyan and flew towards the ring at the fastest speed. Trunks also felt the abnormality of this aura, so he flew over. When the two men arrived, they saw an extremely shocking scene. Son Goku, who was already a Super Saiyan, suddenly had a much higher aura at this moment, and the aura surrounding him became completely different from the past. The lightning that kept moving in the aura clearly indicated that this was another completely different state. This is the new Super Saiyan form. Both father and son were shocked, and even Cell, who was opposite Son Goku, couldn't help but stare in amazement at this moment. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.